Chapter 2356. Lu Yin stared coldly at Chao as he slowly walked out of the sourcebox array and headed towards the first array base. Chao was shocked. Impossible. How could he have walked out of Master's sourcebox array? Bai Qi saw Lu Yin's icy gaze and she had a bad premonition. She shouted at Chao, hurry up and leave. I'll stop him. Chao bit her lips. Why did she have to leave? What could he do about a mere bait? Under Mu Shang's protection she was treated as an honored guest no matter where she went. Even Bai Qi and the other half-step ancestors took good care of her, which made her forget herself. She had never thought about why Bai Qi had asked her to leave, as even a half-step ancestor had lost her composure. The only thought in her mind was that Lu Yin was the bait for the four-way scales, and she firmly believed that as Mu Shang's disciple, no one would dare to do anything to her. Bai Qi grabbed Chao and was about to throw her out. Suddenly, Lu Yin appeared next to them and placed his hand on Chao's shoulder. He looked past Chao and looked at Bai Qi. You're a dignified half-ancestor. Are you planning to attack this junior? Bai Qi stared at Lu Yin. I just told her to go away. I have something I need her to do. Lu Yin smiled and looked at Chao. Chao looked back at him and the two looked at each other again. I'm Lu Yin said with a gentle expression. Chao was at a loss. That bone-chilling gaze just now was like an illusion. I heard that the key to the sourcebox array was lost? Lu Yin asked. Only then did Chao react. He was secretly angry. What was she afraid of? The remnants of the Lu clan were nothing more than stray dogs. Yeah, sorry I lost it. Why didn't you tell me earlier? To tell you the truth, I just went down and a few people have died in the past few days. If you had told me earlier, they wouldn't have had to die, Lu Yin said softly, but it was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. Bai Qi's heart sank. She didn't know about this. Chao casually replied, it's their honor to die on the battlefield. Many of those people from the remnant army deserve to die. It's fate. Lu Yin nodded. Right, did you really lose your key? Although Chao was arrogant, she was not stupid. There were some things that needed to be done, but there was a need for sufficient reasons. She would not allow herself to be passive. Lost. Lu Yin sighed. That's troublesome. How are you going to save yourself without the key? Lu. Bai Qi was shocked. She had only managed to say one word when the miniature candle god appeared on Lu Yin's shoulder and attacked her with rune lines. Bai Qi was caught off guard and was forced back by half a set of rune lines. The candle god wasn't a half-martial ancestor, but after he cultivated himself into a candle, he possessed half-martial ancestor-level rune lines. Although he was a half-martial ancestor, it was impossible for him to fight against a half-martial ancestor like Bai Qi. However, this was rune lines, an invisible power. Even Zhu Yi, the leader of one of the 12 heavenly gates, was caught off guard and forced to retreat, let alone Bai Qi. If the candle god was still alive, he would definitely not be Bai Qi's match in a one-on-one battle. However, his sudden attack was not something that they could defend against instantly. Bai Qi was pushed back. She didn't know what kind of power it was. Lu Yin grabbed Chao and leaped down, heading straight for the sourcebox array. Chao was terrified. Lu Xiaoxian, let go of me. What are you doing? Lu Yin replied, I'll help you comprehend the sourcebox array that your master left behind. Perhaps it'll help you reach the ranks of Origin Array Heavenly Masters earlier and surpass your master. He then led Chao deeper into the sourcebox array. Bai Qi looked down from the first array base with an ugly expression on her face. It's over, Chao is done for. How could she speak like that? Lu Xiaoxian, let's talk things over. Chao will take responsibility for her mistakes. Bai Qi shouted. Lu Yin completely ignored her. After leading Chao deeper into the sourcebox array, he placed her at a node. This node was the center of millions of knots, and it was also the most important step in unraveling the sourcebox array. It was also the key to opening the sourcebox array. Chao blankly looked around her. From the outside, she could see that her master was an Origin Array Heavenly Master, and she marveled at his ingenuity and praised his shocking strength. Just as she had said, even a Realm Origin Array Heavenly Master would not be able to escape once they entered a sourcebox array. However, when she truly entered the sourcebox array, she saw the countless killing intent all around her overlapping and interlocking with each other. This was the first time that she had entered a sourcebox array that her master had set up, and she could not imagine how such a sourcebox array could be set up. The boundless killing intent followed a certain pattern and formed a specific pattern. Every strand of killing intent caused her scalp to go numb, and she felt as if she was standing at the edge of a cliff where she could die at any moment. She had experienced many battles on the backside of the battlefield, but she had always been prepared for each one. She knew that she would not truly die, as those cultivators, the array corps, and the commander would not allow her to truly die. Otherwise she would not be able to answer to Mu Shang. However, at this moment she was truly facing death, and the feeling caused her to collapse. She wanted to scream out loud. Lu Yin was about a meter away from her, and he looked on with interest. "This is the interior of your master's sourcebox array. He didn't show you around before, right? I'll help him teach his disciple." Take me out, take me out. I don't want to stay here." Xiao screamed with a pale face. Bai Qi and Xiada had arrived at the first array base, and they both looked down. "Lu Xiaoxian, if you have anything to say, bring Xiao up first." Xiada did not speak, as Xiao was Mu Shang's disciple. The frigid immortal sect needed to answer to Mu Shang, but the Xia family did not. He even hoped that Lu Yin would fight Mu Shang. In terms of cultivation, Mu Shang was naturally not Lu Yin's match. No matter how he had done it, Lu Yin was still able to face off against a progenitor. However, Mu Shang was an Origin Array Heavenly Master, and the methods that an Origin Array Heavenly Master could use were incomprehensible. It was rumored that Progenitor Hui and the Fog Progenitor were not adept at fighting, but the unlimited power that he had created had protected humanity for so many years and even blocked the Eternals. This was an Origin Array Heavenly Master. Mu Shang was known as the youngest Origin Array Heavenly Master in history, and no one knew if he would be able to match Progenitor Hui's talent in sourcebox arrays in the future. Lu Yin smiled and looked at Xiao. "You should be thanking me. I'm helping Mu Shang teach you, but I'm a strict person and have high standards for my disciples. The rest is up to you. If you don't understand this array, then you might die." Xiao looked at Lu Yin in fear. "Let me out and I'll apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Please let me out, I'm begging you." Lu Yin soared into the air and left the sourcebox array to ascend to the first array base. Bai Qi walked in front of Lu Yin and stared at him. "Lu Xiaoxian, bring Xiao up immediately. We will take responsibility for her mistakes." Lu Yin looked at Bai Qi and spoke to him for the first time. Scram. Bai Qi's gaze turned cold and he subconsciously wanted to attack, but Bai Qi stopped him. Even if they could defeat Lu Yin, there was still Caged WRM at the fourth array base. If not for the fact that Caged WRM had gone to the fourth array base, Bai Qi would not have lost his composure no matter how furious he was. "Lu Xiaoxian will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation for this matter. Anything can be discussed, but bring Xiao along first. Come, she's Mu Shang's disciple and he's one of the 4 Origin Heavenly Masters. He's a treasure of the human race, and if he's unhappy with us because of Xiao, it'll be a loss for the backline." Bai Qi lowered her voice as she did not want Lu Yin to think that she was threatening him. Lu Yin looked at Bai Qi. "If you lose 1 Origin Heavenly Master, I'll take 1. If you lose 2, I'll take 2. Bai Qi and Bai Qi exchanged glances as they could not refute his words. Xiada sighed. "There's more than 1 Origin Heavenly Master in the 5th mainland." Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back and looked down. Xiao was in pain and despair, and she did not dare to move at all. She was afraid of triggering the danger of the sourcebox and dying. "Master, where are you?" "Master." Bai Qi did not say anything else. Lu Yin did not care about him at all, and he was not even interested in talking to him, even if Bai Qi was a half-ancestor. Bai Qi's tone was gloomy. "Can't you let her go this once?" Lu Yin raised his head. "She can come out if she has the key." Bai Qi frowned. "If she doesn't have the key, then doesn't that mean that she lost it? She didn't do it on purpose, so she doesn't deserve to die." Lu Yin shook his head. "If she had told me a few days earlier, then Che Zhan would not have died." Bai Qi did not know what to say. Some people's lives did not matter to others, but some were very important to others. They did not care about Xiao, but they did care about Mu Shang, and Xiao was still very important to Mu Shang. Che Zhan, on the other hand, was just a sinner that could be sacrificed at any time. However, to Lu Yin, Che Zhan was a comrade who had gone through life and death with him, and he had even promised to take him away. If Che Zhan had died because of this woman's so-called birthday gift, then even by Wang Yuan and the others would not be able to save Zhou, let alone Mu Shang. No one spoke again, and Qiao did not dare to move within the sourcebox array. Although she was in despair and fear, she knew that Mu Shang was about to arrive. As long as he was here, then she would be saved. An hour later, Mu Shang arrived and saw Lu Yin's group standing beside the first formation base. His gaze was fixed on Lu Yin, and there was a trace of surprise and shock in his eyes. There was also an indescribable feeling in them. When Bai Qi saw Mu Shang arrive, she immediately spoke up. Qiao is trapped in the formation. You should save her. Mu Shang was puzzled. How did she get trapped in there? Bai Qi glanced at Lu Yin. Lu Yin looked back at Mu Shang. Nice to meet you, Heavenly Master Mu. Mu Shang exchanged glances with Lu Yin and nodded. He then walked over to the first formation base and looked down where he saw Qiao. Qiao had been waiting for Mu Shang for a long time, and she screamed at the top of her lungs. Master, save me. Master. Mu Shang frowned and looked at Lu Yin. You did this. Lu Yin smiled. I helped you teach your disciple and see if she can walk out on her own. You're trying to kill her. Mu Shang's gaze turned cold. Lu Yin did not mind. She has the key so she can come out. Mu Shang stared at Lu Yin. You've changed. Lu Yin raised a brow. Another acquaintance? I'm sorry, but you only know the old me, not the current me. Mu Shang gave Lu Yin a deep look, and then he leapt down and entered the sourcebox array. Bai Qi did not understand. Mu Shang was the one who had set up the formation, and he could have unlocked it at the first formation base. It was as if he had the key, so why had he chosen to enter alone? Bai Qi thought of something and looked at Lu Yin. You changed the formation? Chapter 2357. Lu Yin praised, as expected of the Origin Array Heavenly Master. You were able to see the problem with a single glance. Xiada glanced at Lu Yin as this guy was still as ruthless as ever. If Mu Shang had not seen through Qiao's plan and had used the same old method to dispel the sourcebox array, then Qiao would have died without even leaving behind a corpse. Lu Yin wanted Mu Shang to personally kill Qiao, which was too ruthless. Mu Shang arrived a few meters away from Qiao, and frowned. He raised a hand and grabbed a strand of the sourcebox's murderous intent. It was as if he had pulled at the entire knot, causing it to change. Qiao's face was deathly pale. She did not understand why her master had pulled on the knot when he could have easily taken her away. Mu Shang could not possibly explain this to Qiao, as he was currently competing with Lu Yin in the art of lock breaking. Since Lu Yin had changed the knots, Mu Shang had to change them back to their original state. As for Qiao, he could take her away whenever he wanted. In the first array, the humans were engaged in a bloody battle against the Eternals. At the edge of the array formation, the half-martial ancestors were watching the battle below. Even though they did not understand sourcebox arrays, they could tell that Mu Shang was very relaxed. Bai Qi sneered. A mere realm origin formation master dares to challenge an origin formation heavenly master? Ridiculous. The formation master of Jian he spoke of was naturally Lu Yin. Xiada sighed. I've never seen a realm plane array master modify a sourcebox array created by an origin heavenly array master before. Bai Qi was also astonished, as this meant that Lu Yin was very close to becoming an origin array heavenly master. Lu Yin stared at Mu Shang, as every move that Mu Shang made gave Lu Yin a different feeling. Mu Shang truly lived up to his reputation as an origin array celestial master. A sourcebox array was not something that an ordinary origin array master could set up, and even a realm yuan array master would find it difficult to do so. This was because it was too complicated. Mu Shang relied on his intuition to see the bigger picture, while Lu Yin could make changes based on his experience. Lu Yin had too much experience, and the experience he had gained from fusing with Celestial Master Qiling's body was unparalleled. Coupled with the various Realm Force Array Masters and Origin Array Masters, as well as the lock-breaking methods from the Dao Source sect, it was as if Lu Yin's heart was filled with power. In terms of lock-breaking, Lu Yin had also fused the experiences of many other lock-breakers. Lu Yin's changes were not too difficult for Mu Shang. After all, there was a gap between him and the Origin Heavenly Master. Not long after, Mu Shang recovered and came to Qiao's side. Qiao's eyes were red. Master, Qiao thought she would never see you again. Mu Shang frowned. Why did you lose the key? Qiao felt unnatural. Just as Qiao had said, They did not care about the life and death of the people in the new city. Master, that Zhou Xian wants to kill me. Xiao raised her head and glared at Lu Yin, her eyes filled with venom. Even though it hadn't been long, the experience from before was unforgettable. It had even left a shadow in her heart, and she had to take revenge. However, when she looked up and saw Lu Yin, she happened to see him take out a source box and slowly place it down. Xiao's pupils shrank as she screamed, "Pastor!" Mu Shang looked up and saw the source box fall. He was shocked. "Lu Xian, how dare you!" He grabbed Xiao and tried to flee. The principle behind a sourcebox array was that the killing intent of a sourcebox interacted with each other, forming a path that only the master of the array could control. It was a miraculous form. If a sourcebox was suddenly placed within a sourcebox array, it would be like a mountain crashing into a calm lake. Forget about the lake, even the entire lake would collapse. Once this sourcebox fell, the sourcebox array would undergo a massive change, and it would undergo an irreversible change. No one could predict what would happen next. Not even Mu Shang, the heavenly master of formations. He dared to take the risk. Throughout history, there had been many instances where heavenly masters had died within sourcebox arrays. In other words, dying within a sourcebox array was the fate of all heavenly masters. When he saw the sourcebox fall, Mu Shang grabbed Xiao and tried to flee. However, Bai Qi and Bai Qi both moved to stop them, as they had not expected Lu Yin to be so ruthless. If this sourcebox fell, even Mu Shang might die, let alone Xiao. Unfortunately, their attempts to stop Lu Yin were futile. Lu Yin borrowed the rune lines from the general appointment platform to suppress Bai Qi and Bai Qi with the might of his progenitor rune lines. They allowed their sourceboxes to fall to the ground, and the danger from the sourceboxes grew closer and closer to the array. Mu Shang could take Xiao and escape from the sourcebox array, but how could Lu Yin let them? Another wave of rune lines descended, and at the same time progenitor power descended from the sovereign realm to protect Mu Shang. Bai Wangyuan had taken action. He did not care about Xiao's life or death, but he could not allow anything to happen to Mu Shang. After all, he was the heavenly master of formations from the frigid Immortal sect. Progenitor power revolved around Mu Shang's body, and the rune lines descended without any killing intent. Lu Yin did not want to kill Mu Shang. He only wanted to push him down and see how the youngest heavenly master of formations in history would react to the sudden change in the sourcebox array. The rune lines slammed into Mu Shang's head, and because of his progenitor power, Mu Shang was able to withstand the attack. However, he could no longer hold Xiao back, and his hand unconsciously loosened as she fell into the array. Xiao stared blankly at Mu Shang as he rose into the air, and she could see Lu Yin's icy gaze. She regretted what she had done, as she should not have provoked this person. She should not have said those words, and she should not have come here. Why had things turned out this way? No one could answer Xiao's question, as her body was submerged within the sourcebox array. Coincidentally, the sourcebox had fallen and the array suddenly changed. It was as if the killing intent had formed a monster that swept out in all directions and tore through the void. This was no longer a sourcebox array, but rather an amalgamation of countless killing intent. As for Xiao, she had completely vanished, and it was impossible for her to appear again. Mu Shang lowered his head and watched Xiao disappear, and his face was extremely gloomy. As Mu Shang fell into the first array base, the progenitor power also disappeared. Bai Wangyuan's voice traveled to Lu Yin's ears. "Lu Xian, don't go too far." Lu Yin smiled, and he no longer relied on the rune lines from the general appointment platform. Instead, he looked down at the changing sourcebox's killing intent. At this moment, even an heavenly master of formations would find it difficult to dispel the sourcebox's killing intent. This was the charm of sourceboxes, as only lockbreakers could see through them and see the other side of the universe. They were people who could uncover secrets. Mu Shang stood up and glared at Lu Yin with an icy gaze. "She doesn't deserve to die." Lu Yin continued to look down with his back facing Mu Shang. "What you say doesn't count." "Lu Xian, you're too ruthless," Mu Shang said slowly. Bai Qi walked over and whispered a few words to Mu Shang. Bai Qi looked at Lu Yin with a complicated expression. Was he not going to show any mercy to his enemies? Xiao laughed. What was Xiao to him? He had killed Wang Si in front of everyone, and she was a half-ancestor and a rather important one at that. Killing Wang Si was equivalent to becoming a mortal enemy of the Wang family, but did Lu Yin care? He didn't care at all as he was already a mortal enemy of the four cardinal scales. Now the only thing that he cared about was the progenitor realm. Bai Qi said something and Mu Shang took a deep breath. His expression was resolute as he stared at Lu Yin's back. Back then Yu Hao and I had an agreement that the moment we met would be the moment he challenged me. Was that Yu Hao you or someone else? Lu Yin was puzzled. Was there such a thing? Right, Lu Yin recalled that when the students of the academy had been on their way to Shenwu Plain to train, he had asked Lu Xiaoge to disguise himself as Yu Hao. Lu Xiaoge had only said that in order to not expose himself. Now that we've met for the first time, do you dare to challenge me, Lu Xiaoxian? Mu Shang asked coldly. Lu Yin turned around and met Mu Shang's gaze. After a moment he replied, sure. Mu Shang was terrifyingly calm. Time and place. You choose. Lu Yin asked, when is your birthday? Mu Shang's eyes narrowed. It's an auspicious day. My birthday is 48 days from now, and many senior lockbreakers will be present. I'll let them witness and see if you, Lu Xiaoxian, have the potential to replace me and become the youngest origin array master in history. I'm looking forward to it, Lu Yin replied. Mu Shang took a deep breath and then turned to leave. He needed to make his preparations. His source box array had been modified and he could not determine Lu Yin's strength. Logically speaking, it was already inconceivable for someone to become a Realm Yuan array master at such a young age. But Lu Yin still had the ability to modify Mu Shang's source box array. Even an experienced Realm Yuan array master like Grandmaster Deng Guo might not be able to do so. Furthermore, Lu Yin was confident that he could challenge Mu Shang, which meant that he was not blindly confident. This person needed to be taken seriously. After Mu Shang left, Lu Yin left the first base as well. His duel with Mu Shang had been unexpected, but he had no choice but to accept it. Even if Lu Xiaoge had said so, he had used his identity. With his current lock-breaking ability, he was definitely not Mu Shang's match. Fortunately, he still had 40 days. After returning to the fourth base, the first person he contacted was Qiuling. The only way he had a chance of beating Mu Shang was to enter her body again and gain all of her lock-breaking experience. Although Mu Shang was the youngest origin array master in history, he was still young and might not necessarily be Qiuling's match. Even if he was not, she would not be any weaker than Mu Shang. It was not difficult to find her contact information, and with Lu Yin's identity, it was easy to find. You're Lu Xiaoxian? Qiuling had not expected him to contact her. In other people's minds, Celestial Master Qiuling was an origin array heavenly master who leaned towards Shenwu Plain. Given Lu Yin's relationship with Shenwu Plain, he shouldn't have had any contact with her. However, Lu Yin knew that Celestial Master Qiuling was Redback. Long time no see, Celestial Master Qiuling. I still haven't thanked you for what you did back then, Lu Yin smiled. Qiuling was confused. What? Are you talking about the Dragon Mountain Go? Then there's no need to thank me. The White Dragon clan paid a price for me to guide Long Qi, but I never thought that Long Qi would be you, Lu Xiaoxian. Lu Yin replied, of course I'm not referring to that. If it weren't for the sage, I would not have been able to escape from the top realm. With the sage's abilities, it would have been easy for you to capture me back then. I will remember this favor. Qiuling solemnly replied, don't spout nonsense, Lu Xiaoxian. I didn't help you with anything. Lu Yin solemnly replied, no matter what you say, I will definitely repay this favor. Qiuling shook her head, there's no need for that. You shouldn't have contacted me anyway. That's all. She then wanted to end the call. Lu Yin hurriedly said, Senior, you must be a descendant of the Lu family. Celestial Master Qiuling jumped at those words. What are you talking about? How could I be a descendant of the Lu family? Chapter 2358. Why would you help me if you weren't a vassal of the Lu family? You helped me just like the Adventurer King. The Adventurer King was targeted by the 4 cardinal scales and almost died. I'm worried about your safety, but with my current strength, I can protect all of the Lu family's vassals. I've even reached an agreement with the 4 cardinal scales. As long as you admit that you're a vassal of the Lu family, no one will attack you, including Shenwu Plain. I'll tell them everything. Qiuling grew anxious. Don't do anything rash, Lu Xiaoxian. I'm not a vassal of the Lu family. But you've helped me before. I'm not an ungrateful person, Lu Yin said loudly. Qiuling was speechless. She wanted to say that she hadn't helped him of her own volition, but that the Eternals had ordered her to do so. However, she didn't dare to say that. If Lu Yin told Shenwu plain that he had helped her in the past, then things would get troublesome. Not only would this ruin the Eternal's plans, but the 4 cardinal scales might even find out that she was a redback. No one would investigate her if she was on the same side as the 4 cardinal scales, but if she was on the opposite side, who knew what would be discovered? You've misunderstood Lu Xian. I'm really not a vassal of the Lu family. Qiuling didn't know how to explain herself. Lu Yin snickered inwardly, but he maintained a solemn expression. I don't believe you. How can I make you believe me? Qiuling rebuked. Lu Yin thought about it. Let's meet. Things like this can only be explained in person. No, what if someone finds out and tells Shenwu plain? Qiuling refused immediately. Lu Yin said, I know that you're a vassal of the Lu family and don't want to cut ties. Don't worry, I'll tell Shenwu plain about this and ensure your safety. He then ended the call. This time Qiuling was truly anxious. Wait. Fine, let's meet. Where do you want to meet? Where are you? Lu Yin replied, I'm at the 4th foundation. If you don't want to be discovered, we can choose a secret location. Qiuling felt helpless. How could there be such a person? She had helped him in the past, but now he had dragged her down with him decades later. She had to explain herself or Shenwu plain would find out that she had helped him in the past. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated Celestial Master Qiuling felt. She hadn't been this upset in years. In the end, the 2 of them chose a secluded place. It was on the back of the battlefield at the intersection of the 3rd and 2nd base, located on the Mother Tree. He was no stranger to that location. It was where he had merged with Celestial Master Qiuling's body. After ascertaining the location, he hurried over. He couldn't wait to enter Celestial Master Qiuling's body and gain all of her lock-breaking experience. Celestial Master Qiuling, on the other hand, was thinking about how to solve the problem. She couldn't silence them. How could he explain it clearly? With this thought in mind, the 2 of them headed in that direction. On the other side, a group of people had gathered in the valley below the Wang family's continent. They were all the elite cultivators of the 4-way balance. Among them were Long Tian, Wang Su, Wang Yi, Xianxia and the others. They had been summoned to the 5th continent to receive the inheritance of the 5th pagoda. The one leading the group was Bai Qi. At this moment, everyone was waiting for Bai Qi. Bai Qi had just left the battlefield at the back and was rushing over. Wang Su, among us, only you guys have been to the abandoned land. Are there really so many inheritances in the 5th pagoda? Long Tian asked. The others looked at Wang Su, Wang Yi and the others. Wang Su's expression was cold. Because he cultivated a supreme secret technique, he had a unique temperament. Some of them are, but some of them aren't. What do you mean? Xianxia asked as he took a sip of wine. Wang Su wasn't interested in answering. Wang Yi explained, the abandoned land was attacked by the Eternals, and Lu Yin disappeared for 20 years. During that time, some half-progenitors investigated the 5th pagoda, and they found most of the inheritances there. However, they didn't find anything similar to Ancestor Ku's inheritance. It's just a qualification. Furthermore, once you obtain the 5th pagoda's inheritance, you'll have to accept Lu Yin as half a teacher. Everyone knew that Lu Yin was only half a teacher. By Wang Yuan's meaning was that he didn't want the ordinary inheritances. This group's only goal in going to the 5th pagoda was to obtain the 13 swords. As long as they could obtain the 13 swords, what did it matter if Lu Yin was half a teacher? The other inheritances were meaningless and they weren't worth half a teacher's favor. He wanted Lu Yin to cancel this half a teacher's favor, but Lu Yin would definitely not agree. Otherwise, how would he explain himself to the 5th and 6th mainlands? So Bai Wang Yuan could only make such a decision. He didn't even mention it to Lu Yin. The group discussed amongst themselves as they waited for Bai Qi's arrival. Bai Qi was already on her way here and she reported everything that had happened at the first array base to Bai Wang Yuan. Bai Wang Yuan had only acted because he had sensed the power of the progenitor's rune lines. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to keep an eye on Lu Yin. It was also because of Bai Qi's report that they understood what had happened. They didn't care about Qiaoer since she was just an ant. They were more concerned about Lu Yin's challenge to Mu Shang, as he wanted to snatch the title of the youngest origin heavenly master in history. It was only now that they remembered that Lu Yin was also an array master of realm planes, and he even had the confidence to challenge an origin heavenly master. This fact caused their killing intent to rise once again. The combination of an origin heavenly master and a progenitor was terrifying, just like Huiwen. Once Huiwen had some achievements in lock-breaking, his future would be unimaginable. During the Daoist sex era, they would never have dreamed that the humans would have to rely on Huiwen's strength to protect themselves. Even Lu Tianyi hadn't expected this. Could Lu Xiaoxian be the next Huiwen? It was not impossible. Bai Wangyuan looked at the battlefield behind him. It would be great if Lu Xiaoxian died in this challenge. He had brought this upon himself, and it had nothing to do with the four scales. On the battlefield behind him, Lu Yin had already arrived at the meeting place with Heavenly Master Qiuling. He looked up and saw that it was exactly the same place where he had fused with Heavenly Master Qiuling. The general appointment platform floated behind him, and he glanced behind to use the platform's rune lines to cover his surroundings. He wanted to make sure that Bai Wangyuan and the others weren't watching him. Although he couldn't defeat those people, he could still use the progenitor rune lines to confirm that no one was watching him. Fortunately, no one was watching him, and Bai Wangyuan and the others knew that they couldn't monitor him. Besides, the ruler realm was also a battlefield for progenitors, so it wouldn't be easy for them to monitor him. Hold on, Lu Yin suddenly realized that this might have been Heavenly Master Qiuling's doing. She definitely didn't want the four scales to know that they were meeting, so she had thought of a way to have the Eternals delay Bai Wangyuan and the others in the ruler realm. If that was really the case, then Lu Yin was amused. The Eternals had helped him a lot, but the consequences were that the fourth formation base might have changed. Qiuling definitely didn't want to spend too much time with him, so she would definitely think of a way to lure him away. Come out, senior. Lu Yin looked in a certain direction and smiled. Qiuling walked out and looked at Lu Yin with a judgmental and helpless gaze. You're very fast. The speed of a half-progenitor, but I can use other methods to reach the speed of a progenitor. Not too long ago I fought against the eternal 7 sky gods, and that was the true 7 sky gods. On the 5th mainland, even Xiaxinji and Baixing were forced to retreat by me. That was why the 4 cardinal scales came to an agreement with me. Senior, you don't have to worry about anything. I'll definitely protect you. Celestial Master Qiuling was speechless. Although she was prone to jealousy, it was only because of her dark nature. Ever since she became an Origin Formation Celestial Master, her personality had changed a little. She had become more approachable and gentle, which made it easier for her to get closer to people. Over time, she had become different from her younger self. She even wondered if she would still want to surpass that person and join the Eternals if she could live again. Even so, Lu Yin had infuriated her. Why couldn't he understand human language? I told you, I'm really not a remnant of the Lu family, Qiuling repeated. Lu Yin looked around vigilantly. Is someone watching us? Senior, don't worry. Even if Bai Wangyuan and those old fogies are watching, you can still boldly say it. Nothing will happen. I understand that you've endured humiliation in the astral tree for so many years. I'm here to pick you up. Qiuling clenched her fists subconsciously, but then she relaxed them. Alright, I admit that I helped you, but that was because I was once indebted to the Lu family. After that, I no longer owe the Lu family anything. I don't owe you anything and you don't owe me anything. I'll say it again. I'm definitely not a remnant of the Lu family. Lu Yin grew agitated and took a step forward. I don't believe it. The Adventurer King hasn't come looking for me and you won't admit it either. Did the 4 scales do something to you? Lu Yin suddenly said, was it a restriction? The 4 scales must have placed a restriction on you as well. Senior, don't worry, I can remove the restrictions on the 4 scales. I was the one who removed the restrictions in the alliance. Qiuling was very wary of Lu Yin, but she didn't know why. It was just that when he approached her, she felt a chill that made her subconsciously want to distance herself from him. Lu Yin stopped in place and looked at her with a complicated expression. Senior, are you wary of me? Qiuling took a deep breath. I told you I'm not a remnant of the Lu family, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. Especially now that I belong to Shenwu Plain, I don't want Patriarch Shenji to be unhappy. Lu Yin looked at her bitterly and mocked himself. I see. Yes, you belong to Shenwu Plain now, so of course you don't want to have anything to do with a remnant of the Lu family. Qiuling relaxed when Lu Yin didn't move forward. She looked at the 4th base. He should be here. Just as she thought this, a vast wave of progenitor power swept across the 5 bases. Lu Yin suddenly turned around. Not good, there's a progenitor enemy. He looked at Qiuling again and wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't. He left in disappointment. A moment later Qi appeared and was summoned by Lu Yin to charge towards the fourth base. Qiuling relaxed when she saw that Lu Yin had summoned a progenitor. It was finally over. She shouldn't have appeared to help him in the first place, but who would have thought that he would appear in this part of the universe so openly? It was unbelievable. She took a deep look in the direction of the fourth base and then turned to leave. Suddenly, her expression shook and her gaze became sluggish. Lu Yin walked out from the shadows behind her and merged into her body. Chapter 2359. Although Qiuling was an origin heavenly master, her cultivation was only at the peak of the envoys. She wasn't even a half-progenitor. Unless she had a falling out with Lu Yin and set up a sourcebox array to resist him, she wouldn't be able to avoid him at all. Furthermore, Lu Yin had ambushed her, so she didn't even have the chance to set up a sourcebox array. Lu Yin hadn't expected things to go so smoothly, and he had even planned on smacking her with his slipper. He had assumed that Qiuling had some sort of triggering sourcebox array, but she didn't. Lu Yin had successfully merged into her body, and as for the progenitors that had suddenly appeared, he would leave them to Jailworm and Qi. Qi's appearance had helped him cover up his alibi. Otherwise, Qiuling's biggest mistake would have been losing the time when he had merged with her memories. Before coming here, Lu Yin had already considered how to disassociate himself from that blank time, and Qiuling had used the Eternals to lure him away. Without any delay, Lu Yin quickly searched through her memories regarding lock-breaking and began to merge them. He could quickly obtain a person's techniques through their memories, which was why Lu Yin was so confident in his gamble with Mu Shang. If he hadn't merged with Qiuling's body, he might not have agreed to this gamble. Ever since he had defeated Xianxia and the others on the fifth mainland, he had used the 3 astral palms to protect Zhou Xian Academy. He had always been successful in the astral tree domain, and this time would be no exception. As more and more memories flooded in, Lu Yin's lock-breaking experience increased rapidly. The progenitor that had attacked the 5 array bases wasn't one of the 7 sky gods, but rather a progenitor corpse king that had fallen from the autonomous realm. It seemed like someone had struck it down, and the battle in the ruler's realm had left by Wang Yuan and the others with no time to monitor Lu Yin. Everything seemed to make sense. The progenitor corpse king that had fallen was struck by Yi Qi's blade, and it crashed into the new continent. Lu Yin wanted to see a progenitor corpse king that wasn't one of the 7 sky gods, but unfortunately he didn't get to see one. Yi Qi wasn't the only one to attack. Jailworm also bared his fangs and brandished his claws. In everyone's eyes, this was Lu Yin's doing, as only he could summon Yi Qi. An hour later, the progenitor corpse king disappeared. It had only appeared to lure Lu Yin away from Qiuling, not to actually fight. After the progenitor realm corpse king disappeared, Lu Yin returned to his body, recalled Yi Qi and then left. The timing was just right, and Lu Yin even suspected that the progenitor realm corpse king was cooperating with him. Once he left, Qiuling's body shook and she regained consciousness. Her surroundings hadn't changed at all, but as an origin heavenly master, she could sense that something was missing. Very soon her expression changed. The time was not right. She did not have an hour's worth of time. The reason why she noticed this was because she actually did not have any memories of the progenitor realm battle. The battle between the eternal progenitor realm corpse king and Yi Qi had been witnessed by the entire battlefield. She was also a peak emissary, so how could she not know? But she just didn't have any memories of it. That was strange. What's going on? Who's controlling me? This had happened before and she suspected that it was the Eternals. This time she was controlled after she contacted the Eternals. Could it really be the Eternals? She did not suspect Lu Yin, as caged Wurm and Yi Qi were fighting a progenitor realm corpse king. Lu Yin was also fighting a progenitor realm corpse king, so how could he possibly be distracted and attack her? Celestial Master Qiuling was even more certain that the Eternals were controlling her. Was it a warning? Or was he trying to use her for something? When she thought of this, she felt a chill run down her spine. She regretted what she had done and becoming a redback, but it had already happened. There was no room for regret. At this point, Lu Yin had already returned to the 4th base and was in seclusion. He wanted to digest Qiuling's memories and see if he could use his Dai's Enhance to fuse with the other Origin Celestial Masters. This was the battlefield at the back, and the Origin Celestial Masters of the Astral Tree were all here. There was still more than a month until his match with Mu Shang, which was very close. On the other side, Bai Qi arrived at the valley and did not say much. She led a group of elite cultivators through the new void corridor and arrived at the fifth mainland. As soon as they arrived, they saw what had once been the Great Eastern Alliance's first allied army, a legion of miniature giants and millions of astral beasts. These were the armies that would be rotating with the current fourth base. Even further away were the Sky Genesis Court's bewildering legion, a legion of gigantic mechanical giants and so on. They were so densely packed that the cultivators of the astral tree jumped in fright, thinking that they were about to attack. Even Bai Qi was surprised. These armies were enough to support the defense of a base. How could the fifth mainland have so many cultivators? These armies were not weak and there were quite a few envoys and half-ancestors among them. The half-ancestors outside the new void corridor were the medicine Immortal and Zhou Xian. As the celestial sex law enforcers, they had been assigned to watch over the corridor. An important place like the new void corridor naturally required more than one half-ancestor to oversee it. With the technocracy's strength, it was enough to keep an eye on it. When Bai Qi appeared with Xianxia, Long Tian and the others, the medicine Immortal and Zhou Xian also appeared in front of them. Zhou Xian had a deep grudge against the four cardinal scales, so he was not suited to be here. However, he was very familiar with the astral tree, so he was most suited to be here. The commander of the fourth base, Bai Qi? Zhou Xian was shocked, but he quickly thought it through. The fifth mainland had taken over the defense of the fourth base, so Bai Qi naturally had some free time. She was also Bai Wangyun's daughter, so it made sense that she would be the first to come to the fifth mainland to receive the Mountain Sea inheritance. Bai Qi recognized Zhou Xian. I didn't expect you to be here as well. She then looked around and saw that the astral source universe had been devoured, and there was no more astral source or star energy. Zhou Xian hated the four cardinal scales, but he did not have any ill feelings towards Bai Qi. Although she was Bai Wangyuan's daughter, she had always been in charge of the fourth base. She had also been like this when the Lu family was still around, so it had nothing to do with his hatred. It seems like the frigid Immortal sect is indeed the most powerful sect in the astral tree. Bai Wangyuan was the one who signed the agreement with the Dao child, so you were the first to receive the Mountain Sea inheritance. Zhou Xian's words caused Bai Qi's expression to change, as he was clearly trying to sow discord. The three families didn't have anyone suitable for the time being, and the agreement with Zhou Xian was also a joint decision of the four families. Xianxia took a sip of wine. Joint decision? He did not know about the others, but he was sure that Patriarch Shenji would not agree. He actually wanted to know the reason, but unfortunately his level was too low. Don't talk nonsense. Zhou Xian already told you to open the Mountain Sea inheritance and the fifth tower, Bai Qi said to the medicine Immortal as she glared coldly at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian was a half-ancestor from the Star Alliance and he had not been here for long. The other half-ancestor should be Lu Xiaoshuan's trusted aide. The medicine Immortal nodded. The Dao child said that I'll give you the location, but it's up to you how to get there. He then tossed his gadget to Bai Qi and the others. There was a technological civilization in the astral tree, but it was trapped in a pawn civilization. However, they had more or less come into contact with it, so they were able to pick it up quickly. After Bai Qi knew the location, she stared at the medicine Immortal. I hope you guys don't break the agreement, or else our agreement with Lu Xiaoxian will be voided. Don't worry, the Dao child won't go back on his word like the four cardinal scales, Zhou Xian said indifferently. Although he did not hate Bai Qi, he had never been courteous to the four cardinal scales. Bai Qi did not argue with him and she glanced behind her. Xianxia put away his wine gourd and Long Tian stood up. The cultivators of the astral tree all looked in the direction of the outerverse and then rushed out. Their only mission was to obtain the top inheritances in the fifth pagoda. Xianxia, let's compete and see who can obtain those top inheritances first. Long Tian shouted. Xianxia wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth. Okay. In the distance, Bai Weiwei's expression was solemn as Xiaoxinguang approached. Most of the cultivators in the wasteland don't understand how precious those top inheritances are, but if they know our goal, they will definitely gang up on us. We should work together. Bai Weiwei was surprised. You're actually thinking of working together? That's rare. Xiaoxinguang frowned. Although I look down on the wasteland, there have been geniuses who have snuck in and snatched origin artifacts. It's not like there aren't any experts here. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp blade flashed past. They were shocked and hurriedly dodged. Who is it? In front of them, a figure walked out of the void and looked at them calmly. They were confused, but they were still quite vigilant. Who are you? Wei Yin. I'm here to greet you. The person blocking Xia Shengguang's path was Wei Yin, an expert who had undergone 2 origin tribulations. He considered himself Leng Qing's disciple and was proficient in blade techniques. He had once fought for the position of above sky sect's Dao disciple and was extremely strong. Bai Weiwei asked, "Did Lu Xiaoxian send you to stop us? Does he want to go against the agreement?" Wei Yan's lips curled up. "I'm very young." This sentence made Bai Weiwei and the others' expressions turn ugly. Bai Wangyuan and Lu Yin's agreement was that the older generation would not intercept them, but the 5th pagoda's inheritance was a competition. What was wrong with the younger generation competing? Wei Yin was about the same age as Long Tian and the others, so he could naturally take action. It would be considered an early start to the competition for the 5th pagoda. Wei Yin naturally did not appear alone. In the starry sky, youths walked out from all directions. As long as the age gap was not too large, Bai Wangyuan and the others could not say that Lu Yin had deliberately sent people to intercept them. The astral tree's cultivators were not all youths. There were also older experts. The 5th pagoda did not have an age limit. However, the ones who intercepted the astral tree's elites were all youths. Henemo, Lu Lai, Lu Jiao, and the other above sky sect youths walked out one by one. Following them were Wen Sanxi, Ling Gong, Lu Tianmu, and the other former 10 arbiters. There was also the tear girl Xu Jing, Yu Hua Mavis, and so on. The cultivators of the astral tree's cultivators all had solemn expressions. Long Tian pointed his white dragon spear at Lu Lai. "You want to stop us? Let's see if you have the strength to do so." When Sanxi and the others had not broken through to become emissaries, so they did not take them seriously. Their target was not Long Tian's group but Bai Weiwei's group. Only the above sky sect's experts could deal with Long Tian's group. "Be careful, there's no astral source or star energy here," someone warned. Xia Shenfei's expression turned grim. Without astral source or star energy, it would be difficult to fight. However, this was not the most difficult part. They had read the information on the 5th continent, and there was something even more difficult to deal with. Chapter 2360. Whatever came to mind. In the distance, Jialon, Heluo Mavis, and Chuyuan walked out from 3 different directions. These 3 directions just so happened to block the path that they had to take to reach the human domain. The appearance of these 3 caused Long Tian and the others' expressions to change. These 3 were truly Dao children from the era of heavens above, and they were the top geniuses of their respective continents. On the other hand, Long Tian and the others were only direct descendants of the 5th mainland's Lu family. If they had been in the era of heavens above, they wouldn't have had the qualifications to compete with them. Xia Shenfei smiled. "How interesting. Just nice, I want to see the difference between myself and a Dao child." He was the first to charge out. Long Tian also charged out. If they could defeat these Dao children, it would mean that they had the ability to fight against the Lu family's direct descendants. As for Lu Yin, they no longer considered him. Wang Su's expression turned serious. They had no chance. Their appearance meant that Lu Yin had no intention of letting them enter the 5th tower. No one in the same generation could pass through this line of defense. As for the older generation of the cosmic tree, they would naturally be stopped by the 5th mainland's experts. The 5th mainland had merged with the 6th mainland, the astral beast domain, the era of heavens above, the cosmic tree's star alliance, and the Lu family's remaining members. She was more clear-headed than Long Tian and the others because she had been here before and had fought in this region. Bai Qi's expression darkened as she looked at the medicine Immortal. Beside her, Zhang Lin spoke up. "It's a competition between peers, so it shouldn't be considered a violation of the agreement. Or does the 4 Libras not have the guts to compete with us?" Bai Qi coldly replied, "It's a competition between peers. Let them do whatever they want, but don't let me find out that you've interfered, or the 4 ancestors won't be polite. The agreement between the 4 Libras and Lu Xiaoxian is that we won't attack him. It doesn't matter if 1 or 2 half-ancestors die." She then vanished. Lu Yin could stop the cosmic tree's people from entering the 5th tower, but he couldn't stop Bai Qi from accepting the Mountain Sea inheritance. The agreement with the 5th tower was only an additional one, and they could do whatever they wanted. However, they couldn't make any mistakes with the Mountain Sea inheritance. If Bai Qi could really accept the inheritance, then that would be her fate. However, the possibility wasn't high. How many half-martial ancestors had received the inheritance of the mountains and seas in history? How many of them had actually succeeded? That's great, there are so many ancestor realm experts, you can threaten whoever you want. The medicine immortal was envious. Zhang Lin said, it's no use. The 4 cardinal scales great ancestor can't leave the sovereign realm. Otherwise, the situation in the starry sky of trees would have changed a long time ago, and Xian Academy wouldn't have been able to do anything. If the 4 great ancestors came together, even the Dao child wouldn't have been able to stop them. That's true. They've been caught in their own trap. I just hope that Bai Qi doesn't inherit the mountains and seas. Otherwise it wouldn't be worth it, said the medicine immortal. The mountain sea that Lu Yin had given to Astral Tree was one of the mountains and seas within the Dao Source Sect's ruins. Astral Tree had entered it a few times, but he could not understand it, so he might as well take it out. If there really was someone who could inherit it, then it would be beneficial to the human race unless that person was a mortal enemy. If they were mortal enemies, he would have to think of a way. With Bai Qi's speed, it only took her half a day to reach the outer verse and successfully find the mountain sea. Unlike the cosmic tree, Lu Yin did not hide these 2 mountain seas, and anyone could try to inherit them. Bai Qi entered the mountain sea space, crossed the sea and approached the mountain peak. Then her body disappeared and she heard 5 words. Those who have broken through enter. A circle of torches lit up in front of her, and just as Lu Yin had seen, the flames rose. Soar, and they merged together in front of her. With each flame that merged, the color of the flames deepened. Eventually, the color of the flames could no longer be seen, and all Bai Qi could feel was an incomparably high temperature. Even though she was a half-ancestor, this high temperature was like an ordinary person facing the sun. She could not understand what was happening and her fingers twitched. She wanted to touch the flames, but she did not dare to do so. She had a premonition that if she touched them she would be reduced to ashes. She was clearly a half-ancestor, but she would still be burned to death? As her surroundings turned dark, Bai Qi retreated from the mountain sea, and 5 more words rang out in her ears. Those who have broken through fail. She stood outside the mountain sea, her entire body drenched in sweat. She looked on unwillingly, but she did not understand. He did not understand at all. That's normal. A familiar voice rang out. Bai Qi turned around and saw a thin man. He was shocked. It's you, Shan? The person who had appeared was Master Shan, Lu Xiaoxuan's protector. Master Shan looked at Bai Qi. We meet again, Commander Bai. Bai Qi was curious. I thought you had been exiled as well. Master Shan laughed. I was lucky to be able to preserve my life to protect the young master. Bai Qi fell silent. She had met this person several times. When Lu Xiaoxian had been training at the 4th Formation Base, this person had been at the headquarters, secretly protecting Lu Xiaoxian. They had even fought side by side. Although he was thin, his defenses were terrifying. She had thought that this person was dead, but he had appeared again. He suddenly thought of the Lu family. Would the Lu family appear again? No one knew what had happened to the Lu family. The 4 cardinal scales had done everything they could to expel the Lu family, but they were powerless to destroy them. They could only leave the matter to the Eternals, but could the Eternals really destroy the Lu family? Aside from Lu Tianyi, the ultimate powerhouse who had sealed 9 mountains and 8 seas as a god, the Lu family had another legend. She still felt that the 4 cardinal scales had made a mistake. Only those who had been guarding the battlefield at the back all year round were certain that the 4 cardinal scales had made a mistake. This was because the Lu family's disappearance had affected the battlefield the most. They were under too much pressure and they could no longer go to the New World. Bai Qi was about to leave and she had nothing to say to Master Shan. After all, they were enemies. Master Shan looked at Bai Qi's back. You're not going to try any more? Bai Qi quietly replied, there's no need. If I don't understand, it'll be the same no matter how many times I try. What about you? Have you tried before? Not yet, and I don't have much hope, Master Shan replied. Bai Qi left to find a replacement. The direct descendants of the 4 cardinal scales had to be tested one by one, and then it was time to test the emissaries. Although it was rumored that it was impossible for an emissary to inherit the mountains and seas, and only 1 or 2 people had succeeded, they still had to try. After all, the mountains and seas were in the 5th mainland, and if the 5th mainland had another 9 mountains and 8 seas, it would not be a good thing for the 4 cardinal scales. Master Shan looked at Bai Qi's departing figure with a complicated expression. He had lost his most unforgettable memory. Otherwise he would have acted against this woman. He looked up at the sky. Young master, the Lu family will definitely prosper. Bai Qi returned to the technocracy from the outerverse and saw the pale Long Tian, the incredulous Xianxia and the bitter Wang Su. They had all been defeated by a Dao disciple from the above heaven sect. As for Chu Yuan and the others, they all looked calm. What kind of monster is he? How can he be so strong? Long Tian couldn't believe it. He had already put down his pride and not compared himself to Lu Yin, but he hadn't expected that the difference between them would still be so great. However, even though this region of space had no astral source and their cultivations had stagnated, they were still able to suppress them. Across from them, Sky Cloud Jiawan was disdainful. Lu Yin hadn't even been able to force out his innate gift. It seemed like there was a gap between them, but in reality they would never be able to catch up. This was the difference between the continent's Dao disciples and the direct descendants of the continent's great powers. Just like the difference between the Lu family and the four cardinal scales, it was impossible to close. The more Sky Cloud Jiawan and the others suppressed Long Tian and the others, the more they could see how abnormal Lu Yin was. He had defeated these above heaven sect's Dao disciples by himself. Bai Qi couldn't do anything about this situation. Lu Yin hadn't violated the agreement. Let's go back, Bai Qi said coldly. Bai Weiwei and the others were unwilling, but they still left under Bai Qi's strict orders. With the above heaven sect's Dao disciples obstructing them, how could they cross over? For the people of the Starry Sky Trees generation, this was a natural disaster. However, it was impossible for the above heaven sect's Dao disciples to bring cultivators of all ages. There were bound to be some that they couldn't bring. She didn't believe that the Fifth Mainland's peers could suppress the Starry Sky Tree's experts. When they returned, they would have everyone in the Starry Sky Tree of all ages and cultivations take action. He wanted to see if the Fifth Mainland could block them all. It was impossible for the Fifth Mainland to block them all, but there was no rule that Chu Yuan and the others couldn't challenge those of a higher realm. With Chu Yuan and the others' strength, they could easily challenge 4 or 5 Origin Tribulations cultivators. Back at the fourth base of the battlefield, Lu Yin lowered his arm in melancholy. He had rolled his die 4 times, but he hadn't rolled a 6. Instead he had rolled a 4. He had been in seclusion for almost a year to continue cultivating the serious art, but he would have to wait 10 days before he could roll the die again. He didn't know if he would be able to merge into an Origin Heavenly Master's body again. To be honest, it wasn't very likely and it would all depend on luck. However, luck was something that no one could say for sure. He had previously wanted to merge into a Star Alliance cultivator's body to help remove their restrictions, but he hadn't succeeded. That had been luck. Right? Did this universe have cultivators with innate gifts like luck? Lu Yin pondered. 10 days passed and he looked up and continued rolling his die. He tapped it and the die slowly spun. Enhance. Lu Yin was about to roll again when he suddenly remembered that this was the 4th base, and there were plenty of cultivators around. The first person he thought of was 9 Radiance. Hen Xen had no innate gift and no one in Team E had either. Elder Chan didn't seem to have any innate gift either, as he had never seen him use it. As for the Yao Emperor, who knew if a celestial beast's spiritual force could be considered an innate gift? The only one he could find was 9 Radiance. He would just treat it as a test of luck and it would be a waste if he didn't use it. Lu Yin's body disappeared and reappeared on the battlefield. 9 Radiance and Hen Xen stood side by side, looking at the endless corpse kings in the distance. Lu Yin's sudden appearance gave them a fright and they almost attacked. Lu Yin patted 9 Radiance on the shoulder. I didn't send you to the front lines to watch the show. Go fight. He then vanished. 9 Radiance only reacted after Lu Yin left, and he looked at Hen Xen in confusion. Hen Xen looked back at him, not understanding what had happened. Lu Yin returned to the headquarters and raised his hand. There was a new symbol on the die's 5 side that resembled a brain. He was surprised. What was 9 Radiance innate gift? How could it be a brain? He thought about it and memorized it, planning to ask about it when he returned to the 5th mainland. He tapped it again and continued rolling the die. Chapter 2361. After 4 rolls, Lu Yin sighed as he still hadn't been able to roll 6 pips. He had, however, managed to roll 3 pips, but he only wanted to upgrade something on the level of the slippers. How could he upgrade it here? His aura might attract by Wang Yuan and the others. He waited for another 10 days. For most cultivators, each day on the battlefield felt like a year, but the reverse battlefield didn't feel the same way. This was because the battles here were never-ending and battles could happen at any moment. None of the 5 main array bases were idle, and no one knew where so many corpse kings had come from. After the past few days of fighting, the 4th array base's battlefield had successfully attracted everyone's attention, as its battle style was too unique. Even an explorer could travel through the void and unleash an enlighter's attack, let alone an enlighter. After the past few days of fighting, very few people had died in the 4th array base, including the Astral Beast army. There were too many void wanderers, enough for everyone to have one. If they encountered any danger, the void wanderers would do their best to travel through the void, rendering the corpse king's attacks ineffective. It could be said that the 4th array base had sent out the most cultivators and astral beasts to participate in the battle. The average cultivator had the highest cultivation and the death rate was also the lowest. There were even occasional instances where the corpse kings were repelled. The reason why the cultivators of the cosmic tree realm feared the battlefield on the other side was because of the never-ending battles there. However, the 4th array base had been able to force the corpse king back, which was extremely rare. Furthermore, their source box array had not been destroyed, which was also quite rare. The Cosmic Tree Realm did not send any Origin Array Masters to reinforce the 4th array base, as there was no need for it. The 4th array base's dazzling performance caused many people to discuss it. Some said that they could give them another array base to defend, but this was not something they could decide. It seemed like giving the 5th mainland another array base to defend was a good thing for the Cosmic Tree Realm, but Bai Wang Yuan and the others saw it differently. The 5th mainland had 2 array bases to defend, which meant that they couldn't do anything to the 5th mainland. Otherwise, the first to be affected would be the reverse battlefield. They didn't want to be led by the nose by Lu Yin. Another 10 days passed in the blink of an eye, and there were only 28 days left until Mushang's birthday. Lu Yin also received news that the 4 Origin Array Heavenly Masters would be present on that day, and they would be playing Eternal's Radius. The location would be at the entrance to the backside battlefield, and 1 step north would lead them to the topmost realm. This single step separated the peaceful topmost realm from the backside battlefield, and the bloodthirsty backside battlefield. Mu Shang had chosen this location to give Lu Yin a hint that he could leave at any time, but once he did, it would mean that he had lost. Although neither side mentioned the price of losing, they both knew that they couldn't afford to lose. Back at the headquarters of the 4th base, Lu Yin tapped his die, causing it to slowly spin before finally stopping at 6 pips. His eyes lit up and his consciousness appeared in that dark space. He looked around at the dim orbs of light around him and felt somewhat disappointed. The one he wanted to merge with the most was the Origin Array Heavenly Master, but there were only 4 Origin Array Heavenly Masters in the Starry Sky Tree. The chances of him merging with them were too small. The one with the lowest cultivation was Mu Shang, but the light that Mu Shang represented was brighter than these. Lu Yin was unwilling to give up, and he sent his consciousness into the distance in search of the bright ball of light. He couldn't control his consciousness in this dark space at all. He didn't know how far he would go with a casual move, and there weren't any bright balls of light around him. Now that he could battle a half-martial ancestor, the bright light definitely represented a half-martial ancestor. At the very least, it was an emissary at the 5th or 6th stage of tribulation origin. How many? The position where the 6 points of consciousness appeared had little to do with his own position. Fortunately, he had a lot of star essence so he could use it as much as he wanted. His consciousness moved again, but there were still no bright balls of light. He was well aware that every move he made would consume an astronomical amount of star essence, but if he couldn't merge with someone of value, then the 6 pips on his die would be wasted. He wasn't confident that he would be able to roll 6 pips again. Finally, after his 5th move, he saw a bright ball of light that was especially bright. It was even brighter than the ones he had faced against Celestial Master Qiuling and Henyi. It should be a half-martial ancestor. Lu Yin hesitated for a moment, but he still chose to merge with it. The moment he merged with the ball of light, he felt a mixture of pain and numbness in his mind. Lu Yin suddenly opened his eyes, only to find that his surroundings were pitch black. Where am I? Memories flooded into his mind and his expression changed. He was in the depths of the new world and he had not merged with a human. Instead he had merged with one of the 12 eternal marquises, the Blue Marquis. Lu Yin had never thought that he would actually merge with one of the 12 eternal marquises. Even though he could battle a half-martial ancestor, that was under the premise that he had borrowed various powers. If not for the power in his heart, he would not have been able to face a half-martial ancestor's inner world. The 12 eternal marquises were similar to the sect masters of the 12 Elysian gates, so it wouldn't take long for him to merge with them. Sure enough, such a bright ball of light represented a half-martial ancestor. He did not move and allowed the memories to enter his mind. Lu Yin's expression changed. Lan Ho had not left for nearly 10 years and had been recuperating underground. Lu Yin already knew where these endless corpse kings had come from. They had come from a parallel space. It was possible to travel through parallel space, but it was difficult to return. However, this was not difficult for the Eternals since they had coordinates. This was similar to the seal that Lu Yin had obtained from the Eternal Kingdom. Through Lan Ho's memories, Lu Yin knew that the seal had come from the eternal race's only true god. He had also seen the scarlet vertical eye that represented that true god in Lan Ho's memories. He had experienced Lan Ho's reverence at the time. It wasn't just Lan Ho. Even the progenitor corpse kings had to respect the true god from the bottom of their hearts. It wasn't just reverence, there was also fear. In Lan Ho's memories, that scarlet vertical eye did not have any terrifying aura, but it still made them feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Lu Yin could also feel this fear. At that moment, his consciousness suddenly disappeared and returned to his body through the dark space. It had not been long since he had entered Lan Ho's body, or rather, it had been too short. After all, he was one of the 12 marquises of the Eternals. Lan Ho's memories did not give Lu Yin much useful information. Other than seeing the symbol of the eternal race's only true god, there was also the person who had injured him. It was a middle-aged man covered in lightning, and Lan Ho had not been able to see his face clearly. Just the aftermath of the lightning had been enough to injure him, forcing him to go into seclusion to recuperate. However, that person was in a parallel space and not in this space. Lu Yin took a deep breath. The Eternals could continuously create corpse kings through parallel space, and there was an endless supply of them. If they had a way to locate coordinates, then could they also use parallel space to pull people into battle? Actually, the theory that the corpse kings had come from parallel space had long been inferred. Many cultivators in the new city were said to have come from parallel space, such as Big Sis Rakshasa, but none of them had been confirmed. Now that Lu Yin had confirmed it, he stopped thinking about it and checked his cosmic ring. Lu Yin knew that constantly moving through the dark space would consume a lot of energy, but he had not expected it to be so much. He had spent a total of 250 billion star essence, which was nearly 100 billion star essence more than when he had fused with Henye's body. When he had fused with Henye's body, he had only spent 146 billion star essence. Henye had been on the 5th mainland while Lu Yin had been in the cosmic tree realm. He had spent a lot of time in Henye's body and had even endured the bombardment of progenitor power, which was why he had consumed so much energy. Now he had actually consumed so much energy when he had fused with Lan Ho's body. Lan Ho had been on the new mainland and had not crossed through space. Was it because Lan Ho was a half-progenitor? The cost of going from an emissary to a half-progenitor was too ridiculous. No, it was more likely that Lu Yin had been moving through the dark space and every time he moved the cost would be ridiculous as well. Lu Yin sighed. The higher his cultivation, the more energy he would consume. Sure enough, no matter how much money he had, it would not be enough for the dye's consumption. He stopped thinking about it and started again. If he did not have enough, then he would continue to earn more. He did not love money as it was used to increase his strength. He tapped out and the dye slowly spun before stopping. 4 pips. Lu Yin's vision changed and he appeared in the time-stop space. Here Lu Yin could obtain as many pips as he wanted. At most it would take a bit more time. He looked at his cosmic ring and fell into deep thought. When he had been on Junior Ancestor Planet, he had had the opportunity to upgrade the slippers. However, the amount of star essence required to upgrade the slippers had been too ridiculous, and even if he had upgraded the slippers to the point where they could instantly kill a progenitor, he would not have been able to get close to a progenitor. After all, the slippers were meant for close combat. However, things were different now. He could summon Ichi and he had the Hellworm. He could also borrow the rune lines of a progenitor, and he could even borrow Progenitor Chen's strength from the 5th mainland. It was not impossible for him to rely on the slippers to win. Xianxia and the others would definitely be on guard against the slippers, but the Eternals might not be. And even if they were on guard as Lu Yin's strength increased, they might not be able to defend themselves against the slippers. In that case it was time to upgrade the slippers. He would make them into a weapon that could defeat a progenitor just like the Grim Reaper Golian. When the die rolled to 3 pips, Lu Yin looked at the 2 screens and took a deep breath. The true cost had come. When he had upgraded the needle he had spent a total of 460 billion star essence. As for the slippers, Lu Yin took another deep breath. He was prepared to be poor. He tossed the slippers onto the upper screen and then began to frantically spend star essence. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Yin had already become numb. He did not know how many star essence he had left in his cosmic ring. It was impossible for him to store all the star essence he had obtained from the astral beast domain in a single cosmic ring. He had collected the largest cosmic ring in the 5th mainland and had stored a total of 3 of them. Now 2 of them were empty and the last one was constantly decreasing. Lu Yin did not even want to calculate how much star essence he had spent. He just watched as the slippers gradually descended and landed on the lower screen. Lu Yin gulped as he looked at the slippers. There had been no change at all. No, the footprints had become even darker. His face darkened. It couldn't be. If nothing had changed even after using so much star essence, then he would have felt like dying. Lu Yin picked up the slippers and wanted to find someone to slap them on. He could not find anyone, but he had the hellworm. Coincidentally, the frozen space's time was up. Lu Yin grabbed the slippers and walked out of the headquarters. He then looked up at the hellworm. At this moment, one of the hellworm's claws was deep in his nostrils, and no one knew what he was digging for. He did not look like a progenitor at all, and those who had seen this scene were already numb to it. Chapter 2362. Lu Yin grabbed the slipper and climbed onto the hellworm's back. Suddenly, the creature felt a chill as if something bad was about to happen. It slowly turned its head, its claws still in its nostrils. It looked at Lu Yin on its back and then stared at the slipper in Lu Yin's hand. Its pupils shrank and it let out a mournful roar without warning. Its claws accidentally pierced its nostrils, causing blood to flow out. Lu Yin was startled. "What are you roaring about?" "Shut up." The hellworm bared its fangs and brandished its claws to intimidate Lu Yin. It was afraid of the slipper, but Lu Yin was displeased. "Are you trying to rebel?" The hellworm subconsciously lowered its claws, bent them and blinked. It carefully moved its head closer to Lu Yin, and Lu Yin actually saw a pleading look in its eyes. Countless cultivators at the 4th, 3rd and 5th bases were shocked, including the commanders and the eyes of the bases. They had thought that a progenitor had arrived and had beaten the hellworm until it screamed, but they had not sensed any progenitor's power. Lu Yin looked at the hellworm's pleading gaze and his heart softened. "I'll just test its power." The hellworm's claws continued to bend, which was a sign of submission. When it had first arrived at the 5th mainland, it had been driven mad by the slipper. The experience of being whipped had already traumatized it. Lu Yin pursed his lips and wanted to harden his heart, but when he saw the hellworm's pleading gaze he sighed. "All right, I won't whip you." He then put the slipper away. The hellworm was delighted, and it raised its head high as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws. "Shut up." Lu Yin barked. The hellworm's howls stopped abruptly, but it did not show any dissatisfaction. As long as it was not whipped, anything was fine. Countless people were stunned as they watched Lu Yin teach the hellworm a lesson as if it was a dog. How could a progenitor do something like that? Countless people's worldviews were shattered, and the progenitor's image in their hearts was no longer as unreachable. Progenitors were still living creatures. Ever since they had seen Lu Yin teach the hellworm a lesson, the people at the back of the battlefield looked at the 4th base in a different light. They had originally thought that the hellworm and Lu Yin were working together, and they would never have believed that Lu Yin could subdue a progenitor. But now it seemed that something was amiss. Perhaps the hellworm really had been subdued. Xiada was the most disgusted as he felt as if Lu Yin was trampling on Shenwu Plain. Time continued to pass, and the battlefield on the back of the array formation continued as usual. The day of Mu Shang's birthday drew closer and closer, and some people from the top realm had already arrived at the back of the array formation with birthday gifts. The lockbreakers on the back of the array formation were also discussing something, and they would occasionally glance at the 4th array base. Originally, the lockbreakers had not been optimistic about Lu Yin challenging Mu Shang, as Mu Shang was the youngest lockbreaker in history, and it was impossible for anyone to surpass him. However, after news of Lu Yin teaching the caged WM a lesson, they no longer dared to make such assertions. A person who could subdue a progenitor could not be judged by common sense. Bai Wangyuan personally met with Mu Shang and asked him about Lu Yin's challenge. Mu Shang's answer reassured Bai Wangyuan. His ability to change the knots is indeed impressive, and there aren't many array masters in the top realm who can do that. He'll definitely become an origin heavenly array master in the future. He has the talent, but it's still too early for him to challenge me. With his ability to change knots, he's still a bit lacking compared to me, and he'll need a long time to make up for this gap. This was Mu Shang's answer, which reassured Bai Wangyuan. Bai Wangyuan was also worried that Lu Yin would hide his abilities, but Mu Shang was not worried at all. He could tell at a glance whether or not Lu Yin was hiding his abilities. Some things could not be hidden from others, and Zhou Xian did not have the ability to hide his abilities in front of Mu Shang. Mu Shang watched as the time drew closer, and the anger that had been suppressed in his heart gradually dissipated. It was not that he had let go of his anger, but rather that he no longer needed it. On that day, Zhou Xian would definitely pay the price and no one would be able to help him. A progenitor did not represent an origin heavenly array master, or else they would not be respected by progenitors. Even if the fifth mainland also had an origin heavenly array master, it would be impossible for Mu Shang to close the gap between them in such a short amount of time. In the fifth mainland, Xia Ziheng returned to the technocracy with an ugly expression. He had also failed as he could not understand the Mountain Sea realm at all. He even suspected that Zhou Xian had created a fake one. On his way back, he saw the fifth mainland's cultivators fighting fiercely in outer space with the cultivators from the Cosmic Tree realm. Until now, no cultivator from the Cosmic Tree realm had been able to enter the fifth tower. The fifth mainland had made ample preparations, and they had also underestimated the fifth mainland. The above heaven, the sixth mainland, the astral beast domain, and the cultivators from the human domain had formed a line of defense that would not break the agreement, but would also prevent the cultivators from the Cosmic Tree realm from entering the fifth tower. This left Bai Wangyuan and the rest helpless. Heading to the fifth tower was also a test. On this day, Grandmaster Deng Gua, Master Song, Luo Fong, Grandmaster Zan, and the other array masters appeared at the entrance to the back of the battlefield. Cultivators from the top realm were constantly arriving as well. There were quite a few half-ancestors, including Xia Ziheng, Wu Yao, and other half-ancestors from the four cardinal scales. There were also experts from the School of Agriculture, the Lu family, and others from the mortal realm. As an origin heavenly array master, Mu Shang's birthday had attracted a lot of attention. However, the School of Agriculture and the Lu family had not come because of him, but because of the upcoming challenge. Mu Shang was from the frigid Immortal sect, so the School of Agriculture and the Lu family did not need to give him face. However, they cared about Lu Yin. In addition, people from the outer realm had also arrived, which attracted a lot of attention. A roar rang out. It was the Hellworm. Everyone looked over and Xia Ziheng's expression turned ugly. The Hellworm belonged to the Xia family. When the Lu family had still been around, the Xia family had been second only to the Lu family. The Hellworm was a progenitor after all. In terms of defense, no one other than the Lu family could compete with it. Now Lu Yin had not only fought his way out of the Shenwu Plain, but he had also taken the Hellworm away. This had completely embarrassed the Xia family. As for the Yu Hao family, it was no longer the Yu family that had lost face, but rather the Xia family. The Xia family had clearly used the Yu family to intimidate the entire astral tree realm so that no one would dare to hide the remaining members of the Lu family. However, they had been used by Lu Yin instead. The Xia family had personally helped the Yu family wash away this humiliation, but they had eventually discovered that Yu Hao was actually Zhou Xian. The Xia family had lost even more face than the White Dragon clan had. However, no one mocked the Xia family as Lu Yin had escaped right in front of Xia Shenji. He was too much of a threat and no one dared to mock him. How spectacular! That's the Hellworm of the Shenwu Plain. Remember, don't provoke it, it's the signature of the Shenwu Plain. A piercing voice traveled into Xia Ziheng's ears, and he looked coldly into the distance. Nong Sanyang was talking to Nong Lai and she looked at him mockingly. Xia Ziheng's gaze turned cold. If this had been in the past, he would have definitely taught them a lesson even if they were from the School of Agriculture. However, Lu Yin was now in control of the four-way scales, and the Nong family and the Lu family were crucial. He did not want to cause any more trouble, so he walked over to the other side. The sword techniques aren't bad, especially the inherited 13 swords. It's just like the legends say. This was Lu Hao's voice. He had been released after being brought back to the cosmic tree. Bai Wang Yuan was not Lu Yin, and he did not imprison these people. Beside Lu Hao was the bright sword grandmaster Lu Song. He said, "You still have to go to the 5th mainland and see if you can bring back the 13 swords." Back then Zhou Xian used the 13 swords to injure Xia Ziheng in the Shengwu plain. It's a battle technique that can surpass realms. Xia Ziheng's expression turned ugly, and he glared at Lu Song before leaving and walking over to the other side. What? Someone with the surname Xia came to our academy to register? No, absolutely not. What? He looks just like Xia Ziheng? He can't be his illegitimate child, right? No, that old thing is so old and useless, so how could he have an illegitimate child? Maybe it's his descendant. If you don't accept, kick him out. What are you sneaking around for? The culinary god shouted at the Cloudflow stone. Behind him Mr. Wei blinked and happened to see Xia Ziheng. Xia Ziheng slowly turned around and glared at the culinary god. This was too insulting. How could someone speak like that? This was too tasteless. Wasn't this insulting? Xia Ziheng had never insulted someone like that in all his years of life. He wanted to retort, but Xia Ziheng realized that he didn't have the right words. Old thing, that's not right. Why can't Xia Ziheng be a half-ancestor? A loud voice came from the other side. Xia Ziheng's expression darkened. With such a loud voice, anyone could hear it. He glared fiercely at Kuei Luo, that shameless thing. The culinary god raised his eyebrows. What, are you going to refute? Kuei Luo came over and ignored the strange looks everyone was giving him. Xia Ziheng has over 100 concubines at home. Don't you know? The culinary god was surprised. Is that so? You don't believe me when I say that you're inexperienced. Xia Ziheng said that he's from a side branch and can't cultivate 9 clones, so he created descendants. Every descendant is a clone and they're all from him. Added together, they'll definitely surpass the direct descendants of the Xia family, including that divine ancestor, Kuei Luo said loudly. Kuei Luo, don't slander me. Xia Ziheng shouted angrily. He couldn't take it anymore. These words were too much. Not only did they insult him, but they also insulted divine ancestor. The culinary god and Kuei Luo both looked over. Oh, isn't this half-ancestor Ziheng? You're still alive? I thought you died in divine martial heaven. Xia Ziheng roared, Kuei Luo, you're courting death. He charged over. The surrounding people were speechless. Kuei Luo's mouth was too venomous, but the problem was that this guy was famous for his gossip. He had once spread the secrets of the various families everywhere, and it was all true. They looked at Xia Ziheng. Those words might not have been false. Xia Ziheng almost vomited blood. Kuei Luo, prove my innocence. Kuei Luo yelled, fine, I'll prove that you didn't have that many concubines because you can't. Xia Ziheng attacked in anger, and the two disappeared in the blink of an eye. The culinary god pursed his lips. It had nothing to do with him. Mr. Wei shook his head and looked in a direction. Mu Shang was walking over. Seeing this farce, Mu Shang's expression didn't look too good. Today is my birthday. Thank you all for coming. I can't thank you enough. Xia Ziheng, this old man has already proven himself. What else do you want? Kuei Luo yelled. His voice spread all around, attracting everyone's attention. Many people felt their teeth ache. Kuei Luo, this old bastard, was rumored to be dead, but he had appeared with Zhou Xian. How disgusting. Mu Shang's expression darkened. Seniors, please give this junior some face and call a truce. Chapter 2363. Xia Ziheng gritted his teeth. Nothing had been going well lately. Ever since Zhou Xian had disguised himself as Yu Hao, Xia Ziheng had never succeeded. Even the Yu family's incident had been blamed on him. He had become Xia Shenji's punching bag, and his temper had become extremely irritable. Old bastard, my Xia family will kill you sooner or later. Kuei Luo rolled his eyes. I believe you. Xia Ziheng's anger surged again. Seniors, please calm down. Mu Shang lowered his voice. Although he was only an emissary and these two were half-ancestors, he was an origin array heavenly master. His status was higher than most half-ancestors and he could speak with progenitors. He didn't care about these two. Xia Ziheng slowly descended. Kuei Luo was a troublemaker who wasn't afraid of anything. With Lu Xiaoxian backing him up, Xia Ziheng might even dare to scold an ancestor. However, Xia Ziheng was different and he had to give Mu Shang face. Mu Shang looked at Kuei Luo. Kuei Luo smiled proudly and descended as well. Mu Shang's eyes flashed coldly. There were too many people in the cosmic tree who had a grudge against this old bastard. At least half of the people present wanted to kill him, but they were wary of Lu Xiaoxian. The situation in this region had changed because of Lu Xiaoxian. Not long after, Qiuling appeared and Mu Shang hurriedly went to greet her. He was also an Origin Array Heavenly Master, but he was the youngest. Qiuling glanced at him and smiled. It seems that I'm the first to arrive. Mu Shang smiled. Heavenly Master, you've given me enough face by coming. Qiuling asked, are you confident? Mu Shang naturally knew what she was asking. Lu Xiaoxian isn't weak. See. Qiuling nodded and didn't say anything else. She hadn't received any orders from the Eternals regarding Lu Yin, and even they couldn't control him anymore. More and more people arrived and gathered at the edge of the battlefield. Anyone who could make it here was familiar with the battlefield, and no matter how the 5 array bases fought, it was all normal to them. Heavenly Master Gu Yen arrived, wearing an extremely luxurious robe. He slowly approached with his maid Xiao Cui and guard butt face. When he saw Gu Yen arrive, Mu Shang's expression turned solemn as he went up to greet him. Many people stopped talking and looked at Gu Yen. No one dared to ignore the #1 Heavenly Master of the Cosmic Tree. Thank you for coming, Senior. Mu Shang smiled and bowed. Heavenly Master Gu Yen hummed reservedly. He looked past Mu Shang and asked, is Lu Xiaoxian not here yet? Mu Shang frowned slightly. Lu Xiaoxian sounded like he was very familiar with Mu Shang. Not yet. Senior, please. Divine Master Gu Yen wasn't here for Mu Shang. Although he didn't dislike Mu Shang was still a member of the frigid Immortal sect, so Divine Master Gu Yen didn't need to give him face. First of all, the two had met once in the mortal realm, and if not for the fact that Lu Yin didn't want to reveal his identity, he might have already become Lu Xiaoxuan's disciple. Second of all, he and Lu Xiaoxian were old acquaintances. Of course, not many people knew about this. Seeing that Heavenly Master Gu Yen had arrived, Xia Ziheng, Wu Yao and several other half-step ancestors stepped forward to welcome him. Heavenly Master Gu Yen was still as polite and shameless as ever. While he was at it, he was also thinking of ways to get some gifts from these old men for Xiao Cui. Kuei Luo took a few steps back. Outside of progenitors, there weren't many people in the astral tree realm that he was afraid of. Heavenly Master Gu Yen was definitely one of the top few, and he had suffered a loss in the past. When Heavenly Master Gu Yen saw Kuei Luo, he smiled brilliantly. Isn't this Kuei? After playing dead for so long, you finally decided to show yourself. Quite a few. Everyone was confused. What Kuei? Kuei Luo was speechless as he stared at Heavenly Master Gu Yen. This old man really was a good-for-nothing, exposing him as soon as they met. I still have to thank Heavenly Master for your help back then. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing, so I won't shortchange you. Heavenly Master Gu Yen blinked. What the hell? Many people looked at Heavenly Master Gu Yen with strange expressions. Had he helped Kuei Luo? Had he helped this notorious bastard? Heavenly Master Gu Yen was speechless. Old man, don't spout nonsense. You're shameless. Kuei Luo laughed strangely. He had only said a few words, and it was none of his business whether the others believed him or not. Heavenly Master Gu Yen felt that he wasn't as shameless as this old man. The more he spoke, the more troublesome it became. He looked off into the distance and saw the hellworm. Isn't that the Xia family's toy? Did Lu Xiaoxian really steal it? Xia Ziheng's expression turned ugly when he heard this. Mu Shang quickly changed the topic. Why isn't Lu Xiaoxian here yet? He's too arrogant. He was the one who challenged Heavenly Master Mu, so he should have come earlier. Shu, don't talk. Don't provoke Lu Xiaoxian. Nobody dares to provoke him now. Didn't the 4-way scales set him up so that he could appear in the open? In the eyes of the 4-way scales, he's just bait, someone said disdainfully. Where's Qiao? Why hasn't she been seen for so long? Many people fell silent. Some knew while others didn't that Qiao was the reason for this challenge. Mu Shang's birthday wasn't very grand. If not for Lu Yin's challenge, many people wouldn't have come. Those who were truly willing to come were either from the frigid Immortal sect or lockbreakers. In particular, Many lockbreakers wanted to become Mu Shang's disciples, which was why they had prepared gifts. As Mu Shang's only disciple Qiao, was naturally more attentive. Unfortunately, her gift would never be seen again. A figure walked into the back of the battlefield and looked at the battle in the distance with a shocked expression. It was Imperial Tutor Skyminder. Lu Yin and Mu Shang were playing chess, so how could only the Origin Array Heavenly Master from the Astral Tree Galaxy appear? He had actually wanted to bring Heavenly Master Xiao and Heavenly Master Supreme Sage as well, but decided against it. Imperial Tutor Skyminder's appearance immediately attracted Heavenly Master Gu Yan's attention. An unfamiliar Origin Array Heavenly Master? Heavenly Master Qiuling and Mu Shang immediately saw Imperial Tutor Skyminder. Mu Shang's expression darkened as he recognized this person. This was the person who had helped Yi Xian Academy's sourcebox array block him. This person was also an Origin Array Heavenly Master. When Imperial Tutor Skyminder arrived, Kuei Luo leaned over and said something. After that, the food god went over as well. Imperial Tutor Skyminder had helped Yi Xian Academy block Mu Shang, so the food god naturally recognized him. With a roar from the Hellworm, Lu Yin's figure appeared at the back of the battlefield. He stepped forward and appeared in front of everyone. Everyone fell silent as they stared at Lu Yin. Xia Ziheng's eyelids twitched. He hadn't seen Lu Yin since he had fought his way out of Shenwu Plain. Now that they had met again, he realized that this person had changed. He had become incomparably domineering. The Hellworm's enormous figure covered the back of the battlefield, and Lu Yin used the Hellworm as a backdrop. The commander appointment platform floated as he approached the crowd. Every step he took was loud and clear. As he approached, the commander appointment platform became much clearer. He had borrowed the rune lines of the progenitor realm from the platform. Lu Yin believed that there were countless people who wanted to attack him, and the 4 cardinal scales would not go back on their agreement. However, that didn't mean that no one would help them. Not all of the progenitors in the Astral Tree Galaxy were present. The 4 cardinal scales. Even if they weren't progenitors, they might have other methods, so they had to be on guard. Heavenly Master Gu Yan had a complicated expression as he watched Lu Yin approach. Was this the current Lu Xiaoxian? It was a pity that the once sunny and optimistic child had become like this. When Lu Yin appeared, there was no one else in Mu Shang's eyes. He had been waiting for this moment. "Brother Lu, how do you plan on challenging me?" Mu Shang stepped forward and asked Lu Yin directly. Everyone looked at them. Lu Yin was so young, but he had such an extraordinary talent in lock-breaking. It was unbelievable. Most did not believe that the current Lu Yin could defeat Mu Shang. Lock-breaking was not a battle, and even if Lu Yin had the ability to fight progenitors, it could not be used in lock-breaking. However, that was only for now. As time passed, Lu Yin's achievements in lock-breaking would be unimaginable, and they believed that he would definitely be able to match Mu Shang in the future. Many believed that Lu Yin was challenging Mu Shang because he was too arrogant. His attitude towards fighting progenitors had made him insufferably arrogant, and he believed himself to be invincible in all aspects. In the Sovereign Realm, Bai Wangyuan and the others looked down. "Is Mu Shang confident?" Xia Xinji asked. Bai Wangyuan did not answer. Mu Shang had given him a definite answer, but he was facing Lu Xiaoxian. He suddenly felt like Xia Xinji had gone to the abandoned lands to kill Lu Xiaoxian when the new void corridor had opened. At the back of the battlefield, Lu Yin calmly looked at Mu Shang. "Stable radius." Mu Shang calmly looked back at Lu Yin. "I can give you another chance to choose. Stable radius, you'll definitely lose." Lu Yin shrugged. "Let's try." Mu Shang nodded. "Once upon a time you all called me Brother Mu. I've given you a chance, but since you don't want to accept it, then stable radius." Stable radius seemed like a game, but it was a test of an Origin Array Master's abilities. It was obvious who was better and who was worse. Gu Yan shook his head. If this kid dared to challenge Mu Shang, then he might have a chance. However, stable radius would definitely lose. "Hey, why is it stable radius? Is that guy sure that Lu Kid will lose?" Kuei Luo asked Qiuling. Qiuling frowned. She loathed this bastard. "I don't know." "Aren't you a celestial master as well?" Kuei Luo retorted. Qiuling avoided the question. Kuei Luo rolled his eyes and looked at Lu Yin. "Shouldn't challenging an Origin Array Master be lock-breaking? What stable radius? Don't bother with these useless things. We want to see lock-breaking." "Yes, we want to see lock-breaking." Nong San Yang shouted. Lu Song coughed. Lock breaking is still better. Mu Shang's lips curled up as he calmly looked at Lu Yin. These people were all close to the Lu family and obviously wanted to help Lu Yin. It was just a matter of whether or not he would accept their kindness. Lu Yin didn't know where Mu Shang's confidence came from. He had Qiuling's lock-breaking talent and was confident that he wasn't much weaker than Mu Shang. His battle prowess even surpassed Mu Shang's, and although battle prowess didn't represent lock-breaking ability, he still had an advantage in stable radius. Why was Mu Shang so sure that he would lose? Lu Yin still had a choice. At this point Xia Ziheng spoke up. This is the back battlefield. Who's going to take responsibility if something goes wrong? Lock-breaking a source box could result in an unknown danger. This was the back battlefield where the humans were facing the Eternals, so it wasn't appropriate. Chapter 2364. There was nothing wrong with Xia Ziheng's words, and even Kue Luo couldn't find a reason to refute them. Lu Yin looked at Mu Shang's mocking expression and nodded. Let's go with the stable square. He didn't believe that Mu Shang could beat Celestial Master Qiuling. After all, Qiuling had become a Celestial Master earlier than this guy, and with Lu Yin's own experience, there was no guarantee of victory. Mu Shang thought that he understood Lu Yin, but the current Lu Yin was different from the last time they had met. One was a Realm Yuan Formation Master, and the other was an Origin Celestial Master. Naturally, they would use a boundless advanced source box against the stable square. How many? Mu Shang asked. How many do you want? Lu Yin asked. Mu Shang placed himself on a higher level than Lu Yin, allowing Lu Yin to choose the method, time and location of the match. He had even reminded Lu Yin, which made it seem like he was helping a junior. Lu Yin didn't mind as he only cared about the results, not the process. Mu Shang looked at Lu Yin. I once played against Celestial Master Qiuling and used 8 boundless advanced source boxes. Can you handle it? Many gasped and Master Dengguo was stunned. 8 boundless advanced source boxes? He had only played against 5 other Realm Yuan Formation Masters at most, and that was already his limit. Normally he would only play 3 or 4, but now he had 8. Only an Origin Celestial Master could do that. Legend has it that Celestial Master Gu Yan used more than 10 boundless advanced source boxes when he played against Celestial Master Li. Is that true? Another Realm Yuan Formation Master asked. Celestial Master Li didn't come? Master Dengguo replied, it's true. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, it's true. Celestial Master Mu directly asked for 8 boundless advanced source boxes. Unless it's an Origin Celestial Master, no one can match him. Even Celestial Master Mu himself would have a hard time, the Formation Master said. Master Dengguo looked over. Indeed, even Celestial Master Mu himself might not have an easy time against 8 boundless advanced source boxes. Celestial Master Qiuling raised her brows. She had indeed played against Mu Shang before, but a huge battle had occurred before the game had been completed. Even with her and Mu Shang's abilities, it would still be very difficult for them to play against 8 boundless advanced source boxes' stable perimeters. Zhou Xian definitely wouldn't be able to do such a thing. No one believed that Lu Yin could do it, including Skymander Imperial Tutor. He knew that Lu Yin's lock-breaking skills were very high, but he was at most at the level of a Jiuan Array Master. He was still lacking when it came to a game of this level. Lu Yin glanced at Celestial Master Qiuling. You've played chess with her before? What a coincidence. I've played against Celestial Master Qiuling before, but we only have 3 source boxes. Then how about 8? Mu Shang asked. Or you can choose for yourself. What was the result of your match with Celestial Master Qiuling? Not yet, Mu Shang said. Do you think you can win? Lu Yin asked again. Mu Shang frowned. This is a game between us. It has nothing to do with that game. Don't dare to answer? Looks like you're not confident in winning. And here I thought you were saying that I'd definitely lose to the stable square circle, but it turns out that you're no match for Celestial Master Qiuling. Mu Shang's eyes narrowed. That's our problem. Do you accept it or not? How many source boxes do you want? Lu Yin nodded. Then, Skymander Imperial Tutor's expression turned grave. It was rare to see 8 boundless advanced source boxes in a game of Jiuan Array Master Qiuling. Every additional source box represented a qualitative change. However, there were times when people could die from playing games. The onlookers all looked at Lu Yin with mocking gazes. They either understood it themselves or through the lock breakers beside them. They clearly knew what the stable perimeters of the 8 boundless advanced source boxes represented. Did Lu Yin really think that just anyone could play a game of this level? He was too arrogant. You can play your source box, Wuxia said. It was very difficult for him to play a game of this level. Whoever played their source box would have the upper hand. Unfortunately, Lu Yin only had 4 boundless advanced source boxes. Let's split it evenly. I won't take advantage of you. Kuei Luo was speechless. You don't have any, do you? Boundless advanced source boxes were not cabbages, and even a half-ancestor might not have one. Mu Shang had not expected Lu Yin to be able to take out 4 boundless advanced source boxes. Even he could not take out 8 boundless advanced source boxes at once, and he had planned to borrow them from Celestial Master Qiuling and the others. He had thought that Lu Yin would only have 1 or 2 at most, but now that Lu Yin had taken out 4, he could take out the remaining 4. Celestial Master Gu Yan, as the number 1 Celestial Master in the Cosmic Tree Realm, would you be willing to witness this game? Mu Shang asked Gu Yan, who was standing in the distance. Gu Yan walked out with Xiao Chui's help and looked at the two. It's been a while since I've seen such an exciting game. Sure. Lu Yin was quite confident in Gu Yan's abilities. At this moment, Gu Yan looked at Lu Yin with a brilliant smile and rubbed his cosmic ring. Kid, the identity of my disciple should be quite useful, right? Lu Yin coughed as he had just been punished. Actually, I never said that I was Senior's disciple. It was just a random guess. Xia Ziheng was furious. Lu Xiaoxian, you admitted that you were Celestial Master Gu Yan's disciple. Before Lu Yin could reply, Kuei Luo stepped forward. Old thing, you must have used too much strength on your concubine. You must be hallucinating. Do you really think that all your descendants are clones? Your ancestor would be so angry if he knew. Wait, does that mean that all of you are clones of the Xia family's ancestor? Xia Ziheng was furious. I swear to kill you, Kuei Luo. Impudent. A sharp blade appeared in the void and slashed down towards Kuei Luo. Everyone's hair stood on end as a progenitor's killing intent caused them to tremble. Even Mu Shang and Qiuling paled. They had never felt such a strong killing intent before. Gu Yan's face sank. Xiaxinji's killing intent was too terrifying, and this was just them. Kuei Luo, who was facing Xiaxinji's killing intent, felt an even more terrifying pressure. Kuei Luo was stunned as he hadn't expected that his words would draw out Xiaxinji. He couldn't even dodge the blade's killing intent as the progenitor's power suppressed him. If not for the fact that he had been reciting the primogenitor's scripture for a long time, his consciousness might have even dissipated. Lu Yin looked up and progenitor rune lines blocked Kuei Luo's path. Xiaxinji, this is none of your business. Scram. There was a loud shout and the 5 array bases behind them trembled. Countless people looked back in shock. Another clash between progenitors? Why was there always a progenitor's power appearing? Shouldn't it be in the sovereign realm? Impudent thing, how dare you insult my Xia family's ancestor? Die. Following Xiaxinji's words, countless people at the 5 array bases looked up as a giant blade formed above their heads. Both humans and corpse kings stopped moving. Xia Ziheng smiled cruelly. Damn it, this old bastard. Lu Yin was about to attack when a glowing stone appeared above his head. It was Wuxia. Xiaxinji, are you trying to break the agreement? In the sovereign realm, Xiaxinji's face darkened. Beside him, Bai Wangyuan said, Now's not the time. Stop. Xiaxinji took a deep breath and looked at the entrance to the battlefield behind them. If you dare speak again, I'll kill you. With that, the blade dissipated. The progenitor's power disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, as if it had never appeared. However, everyone realized that their backs were drenched in sweat. In the face of a progenitor's power, they found it difficult to even walk, including the half-ancestors. Kuei Luo panted heavily and bared his teeth as he glared at the sovereign realm. Lu Yin glanced at him. I'll find a chance for you to scold him alone in the future. Kuei Luo spat. Sooner or later, I'll dig up his Xia family's ancestral grave. Xia Ziheng angrily rebuked. Ku Luo, how dare you speak nonsense? Kuei Luo rolled his eyes. Go find yourself 100 concubines. Xia Ziheng was furious. Enough. Mu Shang's face was ashen. Please give me some face and let me play a game with Lu Xiaoxian. Xia Ziheng stared coldly at Kuei Luo and reluctantly retreated. Kue Luo did not say anything else as he was still a little flustered. In the past, when he had been hunted down by the cosmic trees, it had always been a half-ancestor who had stepped in. Now he had actually provoked Xianxia, so he decided to return to the fifth mainland first. He did not want to be killed by Xianxia. Divine Master Zhou Xian also did not bring up the previous matter. You may begin. He then pressed down with his hand, causing star energy to fill the entire arena. These were the chess pieces. At the same time, Mu Shang and Lu Yin each took out 4 boundless advanced source boxes, and 8 of them released their killing intent at the same time. All sorts of strange killing intent interacted with each other, tearing through the void and creating a power that even Xia Ziheng and the other half-ancestors feared. Lu Song retreated. These killing intents are not simple. Wu Yao looked at the 4 boundless advanced source boxes that Lu Yin had tossed out, and his expression turned ugly. 3 of them had been given to him in order to rope Lu Yin in. Of course, this was also what Lu Yin had wanted, given his status as Yu Hao. Although the frigid immortal sect had not been humiliated like the Xia family, Lu Yin had still completed the Sky Beyond Heaven trial in the frigid immortal sect, and he had even obtained some good items. The frigid immortal sect had also suffered some losses. The killing intent of 8 boundless advanced source boxes was not something that an ordinary cultivator could see. The killing intent was both overt and covert, and even Divine Master Zhou Xian was cautious. He glanced at Lu Yin. This kid was ruthless enough. Of the 4 boundless advanced source boxes, 3 of them were 5 stars. Mu Shang's 4 boundless advanced source boxes were 3 stars. Mu Shang had not expected Lu Yin to directly take out 3 5-star boundless advanced source boxes. This level of killing intent was no longer just a matter of lock breaking, but also whether or not one could block it. Ordinary cultivators could only face it head-on, while lock breakers could choose to avoid it. However, once they were enveloped by the killing intent, even Mu Shang would be in danger. The 8 boundless advanced source boxes all had different killing intent, and after about an hour, they formed a separate space that was similar to the inner world of a half-progenitor. Outsiders couldn't see anything in this space, and only the half-progenitor and the origin array Heavenly Master could sense how dangerous it was. Within this inner world, there was a hidden fatal danger formed by the interaction of the source box's killing intents, and this fatal danger had actually taken shape. As for the star energy that Divine Master Zhou Xian had left behind, more than half of it had been destroyed and only bits and pieces of it remained. Zhou Xian turned half of the star energy white and the other half black. Lu Xiaoxian as the challenger, you choose first. Chapter 2365. Lu Yin stared at the space in front of him. Were his eyes playing tricks on him? Those killing intents intertwined to form a monster? Mu Shang also stared at the space in front of him. He had played this game many times before, but he had rarely played against 8 boundless advanced source boxes. Each source box had a different killing intent, but this time, they had actually combined into something that resembled a living creature. It had to be one of the source boxes that had led to this combination. White, Lu Yin said. Lu Yin chose white, so Mu Shang naturally chose black. Choose your pieces. Let the game begin, Ancient Heavenly Master announced. Everyone looked at the 2 players, but neither of them moved as they observed the space. Qiling couldn't help but stare at the space in front of her. She also wanted to observe carefully. State Tutor Bu Tian, Grandmaster Deng Gua, and the other original array masters also stared at the space. Only by clearly seeing the killing intent within would one have the confidence to enter. This was also a way to compare the abilities of both parties. Whoever entered first would face greater danger, but it also meant that the person who entered first was more confident. 3 full days passed, but neither Mu Shang nor Lu Yin moved. They were both observing the source boxes. Lu Yin had never observed a game like this for so long, and this was his first time doing so. Actually, if he really wanted to enter, he could have done so at the start of the game. With his power level, he could easily resist the source box's killing intents. However, this was a competition of lock breaking, not battle prowess. If he relied on battle prowess to resist the source box's killing intents, then it would be meaningless to enter. Battle prowess could resist the source box's killing intents and even destroy them, but it wouldn't be enough to win this game. Finally, on the 5th day, Mu Shang's hands, which had been behind his back, moved. His eyes were filled with confidence and caution as he raised his foot, about to step into the dangerous space that had long since been enveloped by the source box's killing intents. At the same time Lu Yin moved as well. Mu Shang stared at the space in front of him in shock. Lu Yin actually dared to enter? It wasn't just Mu Shang. Gu Yan, Qiuling and even state tutor Bu Tian were all shocked. This stable space in front of them was not simple at all. Even with their abilities, they could only see some clues and have some confidence in entering. Aside from the original array masters, no one else could see anything. Even though there was only one level of difference between Jieyuan array masters and Origin array heavenly masters, the difference was like heaven and earth. Grandmaster Denghua and the other Jieyuan array masters were at a loss. If they were allowed to play chess, they would have to wait at least a month before daring to attempt to enter. Lu Yin was also a Jieyuan array master. Even the most powerful Jieyuan array master was still a Jieyuan array master. If he was not an Jieyuan heavenly array master, how could he dare to try? Only an Origin array master could see how dangerous and complicated this game was. The more powerful an Origin array master was, the more they would be able to understand. As for those who were not Origin array masters, even lockbreakers would not be able to understand how difficult this game was, let alone outsiders. They only knew that Lu Yin and Mu Shang had entered the game at the same time, which meant that they were equally matched. He's still one step too slow. Zhou Xian only followed Mu Shang after seeing him enter. He's not confident that he can enter. Just wait, he'll lose soon. Although it seems like he's equally matched with Mu Shang, he'll only experience despair once he enters the game. He can't understand the difference between an Origin array master and a Jieyuan array master, an old man said loudly. His name was Bai Hong and he was a branch disciple of the Bai family of the frigid Immortal sect. Beside him a lockbreaker respectfully asked, "Master Bai, is this game really that complicated?" Even Mu Shang had to watch it for 5 days before entering. Many people looked at Bai Hong. At the very least, only a Jieyuan array master could understand this game. Even an Origin array master would have a hard time understanding it. The people around them were just watching for fun. If a Jieyuan array master could explain the game, things would be different. At the very least, they would be able to understand the situation. As for asking an Origin array master to explain the game, they didn't even think about it. Bai Hong looked around and many people looked at him with reverence. It was clearly Mu Shang and Lu Yin who were playing, but he felt like he was the main character. He unconsciously straightened his hunched back and coughed. Stable Perimeter is an Origin array master's game, but most Origin array masters can't play it. Only Origin array masters can play it. The difficulty of the game varies according to the number of source boxes and the level of the setup. Most Origin array masters can set up discerning elementary or perceptive intermediate source boxes, and they can only set up 1 or 2 source boxes at most. As for boundless advanced source boxes, that's something that only people like us can play. The people around him looked at him with even more reverence. At this moment, within Stable Perimeter, Mu Shang and Lu Yin stood in their respective positions. They had found a position where they wouldn't be attacked by the source boxes. Being able to find this step meant that the game had truly begun. There was no order in this game, and players could attack at any time as long as they could use the source boxes to destroy their opponent's pieces. The rules were simple, but the simpler they were, the more difficult they were. "Have you really forgotten what happened in the past?" Mu Shang asked Lu Yin. Lu Yin replied, "I have. You can tell me more about it." Mu Shang smiled. "Back then you all called me Brother Mu." Lu Yin's lips curled up. "Impossible." Mu Shang laughed. "Zhou Xian used to love to smile, but not like you." He had a cheerful, relaxed and sunny smile. It was very comfortable to be around him. He then frowned. "Unfortunately, the current you is disappointing." Lu Yin smiled. "It looks like you're not confident in beating me, so you're actually provoking me with words." Mu Shang shook his head. "It's been a few decades since we last met and I really want to chat with that Zhou Xian. Unfortunately, you're not him." He suddenly reached out with a finger, causing the source box's killing intent to flow beside him. The moment Mu Shang touched them, the source box's killing intent seemed to awaken and frantically spread out. Mu Shang continuously moved, guiding the source box's killing intent in the direction he wanted. Gu Yan and the others all had solemn expressions as they moved. This was the beginning of the game. They all looked at Lu Yin wondering if he could handle it. Stable Square was a very time-consuming game and a single game could take years or even decades. It was rumored that the longest game had taken over 1,000 years. But at the same time the game could also end very quickly. For example, if Lu Ying could not control the sourcebox's killing intent, then the game would end. This meant that there was a huge gap between the two sides. Those who can use boundless advanced sourceboxes are usually lockbreakers who are at least realm origin formation masters. Those who can use 4 boundless advanced sourceboxes are origin celestial masters. Bai Hong was still speaking when she suddenly exclaimed, "He moved. Celestial Master Mu moved." Bai Hong was interrupted, but she did not get angry. Instead, she abruptly looked at the game. She had been so focused on showing off that she had forgotten that they were still playing. Inside the game, Mu Shang guided the sourcebox's killing intent in the direction he wanted. However, even he could not completely control this unknown sourcebox's killing intent. If 10 of Lu Yin's white stars were destroyed, 3 of Mu Shang's black stars would be destroyed as well. There was no other way. There was no other way. This game depended on one's understanding and control of the sourcebox's killing intent as well as luck. Lu Yin saw Mu Shang move, so he followed suit. With Celestial Master Qiuling's lock-breaking experience, he was completely capable of competing with Mu Shang. No one had expected Lu Yin to be able to guide the sourcebox's killing intent. A realm origin formation master should not be able to do this, and even if they could, they would need to observe for at least a month. Even the most powerful realm origin formation master would need to observe for at least half a month. How could Lu Yin move now? Grandmaster Dengguo was confused. They were both realm origin formation masters, so why was the difference so great? He still could not understand. As the two made their moves, the game came to life as the sourcebox's killing intent stirred wildly. If these two were not the ones playing, others would have thought that they were just randomly making moves. Both sides' star energy was constantly being depleted. Celestial Master Gu Yan was shocked. Mu Shang's ability to do this was within his expectations, but how could Lu Xiaoxian do it? That should not be the case. Even if he recovered Lu Xiaoxuan's memories, he might not be able to compete with Mu Shang in lock breaking. Celestial Master Qiuling was shocked, as Lu Yin's performance had exceeded her expectations. It was as if her worldview had been flipped upside down. If she was the one playing against Mu Shang, this would be the most she could do. Skymander Imperial Tutor gave Lu Yin a deep look. This person was becoming more and more unfathomable. Looking at his history, there were many things that others could not see through. They were the ones who were the most shocked, while the others were not as shocked. All they knew was that Lu Yin and Mu Shang were evenly matched in the game. It was clearly not a battle, but the onlookers felt as if there was an intense battle going on. "Master Bai, what's going on? Can you explain it to us?" someone asked. Many people looked at Bai Hong for help. Bai Hong was speechless. "Explain my ass." He did not understand. What's there to not understand? Lu Xiaoxian is being suppressed. The onlookers blinked in confusion and looked back at the game. Both players were clearly moving and their star energy consumption was about the same. How could they be suppressed? Bai Hong confidently said, "Look, Lu Xiaoxian is sweating. Where's Celestial Master Mu?" Just as he finished speaking, Mu Shang's clothes were torn apart by the sourcebox's danger. He took a step back in shock. "I didn't expect you to be able to fight evenly with me. Have you been hiding your strength all this time?" He could not understand. A real Yuan formation master should not be able to hide his strength no matter how much he tried. How had Lu Xiaoxian managed to fool him? On the other side, Lu Yin had avoided the sourcebox's danger. This was the benefit of having a high power level. They had actually been evenly matched just now, and if they had been at the same level, Lu Yin would have been affected by the sourcebox's danger as well. However, he had managed to avoid it because of his higher power level. To the onlookers, Mu Shang was in a worse state than Lu Yin, and Lu Yin was even more composed. Many people looked at Bai Hong with strange expressions. Wasn't Lu Xiaoxian being suppressed? Wasn't Lu Yin sweating? Even Celestial Master Mu had been beaten up. Bai Hong pursed her lips. "Celestial Master Mu, you're willing to go so far just to help a junior. Admirable." The onlookers were speechless. How could this be forcefully explained? Celestial Master Qiuling took a few steps forward and stared at Lu Yin. Strange, why did his actions give her a familiar feeling? Why did it feel so familiar to her, and why did it feel like this was something she should do? Every time this kid made a move, it felt as if he was speaking from the bottom of her heart. If she had been in the game, she would have done the same. On the other side, Mu Shang's expression turned ugly. This person was actually hiding his strength in front of him. No wonder he dared to play chess. Chapter 2366. Mu Shang recalled the information he had received regarding Lu Yin's lock-breaking abilities. The Wang family's analysis was that Lu Yin could allow a normal cultivator to set up a sourcebox array without any lock-breaking training. This was why Mu Shang had sought out Yu Hao in the first place. He wanted to see what kind of genius could accomplish such a feat, even he would find it difficult to do so. Now he had experienced it firsthand. Mu Shang relied on his understanding of the dangers of the sourceboxes, while Lu Yin relied on his experience. Mu Shang could sense that Lu Yin's movements were shaky, which proved that his control over the dangers of the sourceboxes was not good enough. This meant that Lu Yin had not reached the level of an origin heavenly master, but he was still able to fight evenly with Mu Shang based on his experience. How could Lu Yin have such experience? To a lockbreaker, both innate talent and experience were very important, and it was impossible to say who was better. Lu Yin's lock-breaking talent was not inferior to Mu Shang's, but what he lacked was control over the dangers of the complex source boxes. This was something that only an origin heavenly master could do, but Lu Yin could make up for it with his experience. This was something that no one had expected. Gu Yan subconsciously looked at Skyminder Imperial Tutor. Are there many lock-breaking opportunities in your wasteland? Skyminder Imperial Tutor did not know how to answer. He knew Lu Yin's history very well, and he knew that he had not lock-broken many times. Perhaps this was his innate talent. Lu Yin continued to move. He moved many times, but each time he moved, the area he covered was very small. His eyes were fixed on the distant creature that was formed from the combination of the sourcebox's killing intent. That was the most troublesome thing to deal with, as he still could not figure out how to control that mass of sourceboxes. Mu Shang also stared at the sourcebox's danger. Whoever had the confidence to control it would win. So far they had been evenly matched and neither of them had the upper hand. Even though they had more star energy, it was still easy to reverse the situation. Both of them stopped in the game as it was impossible to determine the victor at this rate. The only thing that could truly determine the victor would be the life form of the sourcebox's danger. The sourcebox's danger was at the very center of the game and neither of them moved. Just like before, they were both observing the sourcebox's danger. Heavenly Master Gu Yan looked around and sighed. Zhou Xian had lost. Aside from Gu Yan, everyone else in the room believed that both sides were evenly matched. However, only Gu Yan knew that Mu Shang had already set up a trap the moment he had entered the game. Although it seemed as if both sides were trying to control their sourceboxes to erase each other's star energy, in reality, Mu Shang had already set up a sourcebox array that no one else could see through. This sourcebox array was something that only Divine Master Gu Yan would be able to see through. This was because he was the one who had created this sourcebox array, and it was specifically used to stabilize the perimeter. Mu Shang had learned this from Lu Yin. In a game like chess, unless the disparity between the two parties was too great, whoever controlled the sourcebox array would win. This was also why he had been so certain that Lu Yin would lose. Different people could achieve different results when doing the same thing. Talented people could not only do the same things as ordinary people, but they could also play with different tricks. To them, some things were just a game. For example, Heavenly Master Gu Yan had been obsessed with stabilizing the perimeter when he had first become an Origin Array Master. He had constantly looked for people to play against, but he had lost more often than he had won. This was because he had always looked for Origin Array Masters who were one level higher than him. When he was an Origin Array Master, he would look for an Origin Array Master to play against. When he became an Origin Array Master, he would look for an Origin Array Master to play against. Because he had lost so many times, he had eventually created a sourcebox array specifically for stabilizing the perimeter. With this sourcebox array, Heavenly Master Gu Yan had been able to compete with an Origin Array Master in a Realm Origin Array. He had actually managed to tie with a Primordial Celestial Master of Primordial Celestial Masters 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 of the Starry Sky of Trees. Lu Yin was not the first lockbreaker to play against an Origin Array Heavenly Master as a Realm Origin Array Heavenly Master, but if he won today, then he would surpass Heavenly Master Gu Yan's achievements. However, Heavenly Master Gu Yan felt that this was impossible, as that sourcebox array was basically cheating in a game like chess. He now regretted teaching Mu Shang, as he was more inclined to teach Lu Yin than Mu Shang. Oh, it should be Zhou Xian. But it was too late to say anything now. The game continued, but neither side moved. They stared at the source box that was in the form of a living creature trying to control it. Now it seemed that the game was not just between the two of them but also a three-way game. Master Bai, what exactly is that source box array? Why does it look like a living creature? Someone asked. Bai Hong's heart trembled as he was afraid of hearing someone ask him that question. But since someone had asked, he had to answer. Otherwise he would lose face. What living creature? Don't spout nonsense. It's just a source box array. But it does look like a living creature, someone muttered. Bai Hong was displeased. Do you understand, or do I? An individual source box might have a source box array that is similar to a living creature, and it might even have an even stranger source box array. However, it's impossible for a source box array like this to appear. Don't spout nonsense if you don't understand. What's your name? That person was startled, and he quickly hid to avoid Bai Hong's gaze. The next moment, the source box array that looked like a living creature moved. It stretched out its four limbs like a fierce tiger and even roared at the sky. Although there was no sound, it shook the void, and it seemed as if its voice had materialized. It then charged out. Bai Hong's mouth fell open. How is this possible? Can't you just enjoy watching the show? No one paid any attention to Bai Hong as everyone was focused on the tiger-like source box array. Every time it moved in the game, it would erase the star energy of both players. Mu Shang and Lu Yin were constantly manipulating the source box array, constantly changing the tiger's movements and even its form in an attempt to control it. However, they were unable to do so easily unless one of them gave up. Beads of sweat dripped down Mu Shang's forehead. This was the most difficult game he had ever played. He had suggested using 8 boundless advanced source boxes in order to force Lu Yin to back off, but he had never expected the game to end up like this. Mu Shang's eyes were dazzled, and his brain was constantly working to analyze the source box array. Lu Yin was the same. If not for Celestial Master Qiuling's lock-breaking experience, he would not have been able to reach this point. This was the power of an Origin Heavenly Master. Lu Yin was now qualified to become an Origin Heavenly Master, and he only needed to unlock a few more source boxes. The most important thing now was to defeat Mu Shang. The two of them were completely focused on controlling the source box array, and they wanted to seize control of the tiger. The tiger ran back and forth in the game like a marionette. I really want to praise you, Zhou Xian. It's rare for someone to reach this stage. Given more time, you'll definitely become an Origin Heavenly Master, but you're still a step away. It's over, Mu Shang said confidently as he looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin frowned. Where did Mu Shang's confidence come from? Lu Yin's control of the tiger source box array was not inferior to Mu Shang's, and there were even more white pieces than black in the game. This was because Lu Yin's power level was higher, and he had been able to avoid the source box array's attacks several times. If this stalemate continued, he would definitely win. If Lu Yin could tell, then Mu Shang should have been able to as well. So why was Mu Shang so confident? Had he missed something? Lu Yin felt uneasy. Celestial Master Gu Yen sighed. It was over. Aside from Mu Shang and Celestial Master Gu Yen, no one else had been able to tell. Even Celestial Master Qiuling and Imperial Tutor Skymander had not been able to tell. This did not mean that the source box array set up in the game had reached a level where an Origin Heavenly Master could not see through it. If this source box array had been set up by itself, then even an Origin Heavenly Master would have been able to see through it. However, this source box array had been set up in the game, and it had been set up based on the game's source box array. Normal source box arrays were set up using source boxes or star energy, but this source box array relied on drawing in the game's source box array to form an unimaginable array. It could be considered a source box array within a source box array, which was why it was also called the hidden corner. It used a wisp of source box array as a guide to set up a simple array that no one would be able to see through, thus achieving the goal of breaking through a stalemate. Once this source box array was set up, as long as the difference between the two sides was not too great, this corner would become the key to breaking through the stalemate. Mu Shang raised his head. He had no intention of fighting with Lu Yin for control of the tiger source box array. His true goal lay in that hidden corner where that wisp of source box array was located. As Mu Shang let go, the tiger source box array came under Lu Yin's control. However, at this moment, the source box array floated to the surface and continuously moved about as if it had a mind of its own. It was like a slithering snake. Lu Yin saw it, but he could not care less about the joy of gaining control of the tiger source box array. His expression changed and he tried to control the slithering snakes, but to no avail. It felt as if he was facing all of the source box array and it was impossible to shake it. He saw that all of the white star energy had been surrounded by the source box array. As long as this array moved, all of the white star energy in the game would disappear. In other words, Lu Yin had been defeated at that moment. Lu Yin looked at Mu Shang in shock as he had not been able to see through it at all. How had he done it? No wonder Mu Shang had given up on the tiger source box array. Are you surprised? You're just a realm plane formation master and you're not on the same level as an origin formation heavenly master. You're too arrogant, Zhou Xian. No matter how great your cultivation and battle prowess are, lock-breaking is just another path, Mu Shang said, his tone filled with confidence. It did not matter how the game had played out or how Lu Yin had controlled the tiger source box array. As long as Mu Shang willed it, all of the white star energy would be erased and this game would be over. He could not have lost from the very beginning, but Lu Yin's performance had been too troublesome. Otherwise he would not have needed to use this source box array and he would have won easily. Lu Yin looked deeply at Mu Shang. You've been planning this from the very beginning. This is a source box array, isn't it? Mu Shang smiled and he could not hide the pride in his eyes as he looked at Lu Yin. That's right. That's why I asked you to change the game, but you were too arrogant. This is just like you from the beginning. You were just as arrogant and thought that you could control everything, but in the end you ended up like this. You're like this and so is the Lu family. Everyone was shocked as Mu Shang had never shown any antipathy towards the Lu family. This was the first time he had done so and he had even faced Zhou Xian directly. Lu Yin was curious. Do you dislike the Lu family? Mu Shang sneered. I don't dislike them, I just ignore them. The Lu family has nothing to do with me, but their arrogance is disgusting. Lu Yin said, it looks like you dislike me as well. Actually, I don't like you either. Chapter 2367. Mu Shang's eyes narrowed and his smile faded. You're still far from being able to challenge me as a GUN formation master. Go back and cultivate. The Lu family will pay the price for their arrogance and so will you. In the ruler's realm, Bai Qi heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Fan praised, as expected of the youngest origin heavenly master in history. Even though it seems like they're evenly matched, it's actually just an illusion for Lu Xiaoxian. Xia Shenji said, does he really think that he's invincible in the universe just because he made an agreement? He's still far from that. It's time to pay the price. The dragon ancestor looked down. Yes, it's time to pay the price. At the back of the battlefield, Bai Hong was pleased. See, I was right. Heavenly Master Mu didn't sweat at all and he was just guiding the younger generation. It's a pity that Lu Xiaoxian was too arrogant and Heavenly Master Mu couldn't stand it, so he taught him a lesson. Let me tell you, an origin Heavenly Master is not someone a GUN formation master can challenge. Remember this. He spoke proudly, but it couldn't hide the fact that Mu Shang was in a worse state than Lu Yin. Still, the result was the result. Everyone watched as the game came to an end. Lu Yin let out a long breath. There's something I'm curious about. Mu Shang met Lu Yin's gaze. You want to stall for time? It's no use. I can end this game in an instant. Stalling for time is pointless. Lu Yin replied, I know, I just want to ask. You don't just dislike the Lu family, right? Mu Shang's eyes flashed. I don't know why, but I've always hated you since the first time I saw you. Lu Yin's expression darkened as he stared at Mu Shang. It's like I've seen something that pisses me off. Did something happen between us in the past? Mu Shang's eyes widened, the depths of his eyes turning cold. Don't you think that defeating me after I recover my memories would satisfy you more? Lu Yin asked. Mu Shang's expression darkened. I want to, but unfortunately, you haven't recovered your memories. Did I do something to you? Lu Yin asked loudly. Mu Shang angrily shouted, repent on your own after you regain your memories. Just as he was about to erase all of the white star energy, Lu Yin suddenly raised a hand. A gust of wind swept past and moved an inconspicuous source box in the corner. The source box's danger zone was very inconspicuous, and no one had touched it since the beginning. However, when Lu Yin's gale struck it, all of the white star energy surrounding the source box's danger zone suddenly scattered in all directions. Even though most of the white star energy had been wiped out, there was still a portion of it left behind. Mu Shang was shocked. Impossible. Lu Yin's eyes were cold and he controlled the ferocious tiger source box to charge towards Mu Shang, wiping out all of the black star energy along the way. Finally, he arrived in front of Mu Shang and viciously slammed into him. Mu Shang couldn't react in time and was struck by the tiger source box's danger zone. At that moment, the tiger source box's danger zone collapsed and transformed into countless source boxes that bombarded the area. Most of them landed on Mu Shang's body and blasted him out of the gaming space. Mu Shang spat out a mouthful of blood as his body crashed into the ground. Divine Master Gu Yan moved to separate the 8 boundless advanced source boxes, and his speed shocked Lu Yin. Lu Yin was just about to separate the source boxes and dispel the danger zone, but Divine Master Gu Yan had already completed his task. At that moment, Lu Yin was shocked by Divine Master Gu Yan's ability. If Lu Yin could compete with Mu Shang and Qiuling, then Divine Master Gu Yan's performance was something that Lu Yin couldn't compare to. It was incomparable. Lu Yin looked at Divine Master Gu Yan, and after Divine Master Gu Yan had separated the source boxes, he turned back to look at Lu Yin. His expression was no longer calm, but rather one of excitement and bewilderment. How did you find that danger zone? Mu Shang had been defeated and no one had expected this. Lock-breaking and cultivation were 2 completely different concepts. Before this, no matter how strong Lu Yin was in terms of cultivation or battle prowess, he would never be able to affect his position as an origin celestial master. Even if Lu Yin had surpassed Xianxia in 9 mountains and 8 seas, that only represented his battle prowess and not his lock-breaking ability. Now, however, everyone stared blankly at Mu Shang's figure as he spat out a mouthful of blood. A real Yuan formation master had defeated an origin celestial master, creating history. Divine Master Gu Yan had once played against an origin celestial master as a real Yuan formation master, but it had only ended in a draw. That was enough to establish his foundation as the #1 origin celestial master in the Astral Tree Galaxy. Now Lu Yin had defeated an origin celestial master. What did this mean? Everyone else saw that a real Yuan formation master had defeated an origin celestial master, but Divine Master Qiuling was even more shocked. Even though she did not know about the source box array that Divine Master Gu Yan had created specifically to stabilize the square game, as he had not needed to use it when playing against her, she had still heard of it. She had even heard of it by chance that Mu Shang had learned it. When she had played against Mu Shang, she had wanted to see the power of that source box array, but she had been forced to stop because of an accident. This time she had seen it for herself. That source box array had instantly won the game, and it could easily end the game as easily as grabbing an enemy by the neck. Even so, Mu Shang had still lost. Zhou Xian had actually found a flaw in that source box array? She stared at Lu Yin. How had he done it? This was something that Divine Master Gu Yan could not understand as well. He stared at Lu Yin. How did you find that danger zone? How had he found it? Lu Yin looked at the heavily injured Mu Shang lying on the ground, and then at Divine Master Gu Yan who was acting strangely. I found it just like that. Divine Master Gu Yan stepped in front of Lu Yin, and under Lu Yin's vigilant gaze he excitedly said, "That's impossible. Even an origin celestial master would not be able to find that danger zone in a single game, let alone a real Yuan formation master like you. You know about this source box array, right? You learned it before." Lu Yin was puzzled. "Why do you say that?" "Because I was the one who created this source box array," Divine Master Gu Yan said slowly. Lu Yin was stunned. "You created it? Then what's your relationship with Gu Yu?" The reason he had been able to find that danger zone was because of Gu Yu's letter. Gu Yu was a powerhouse who had been buried on Shenwu continent. He had a power level of over 1,000,000 and he was also a lockbreaker. He had created the 5 sealing planets to protect Shenwu continent, making it very difficult for outsiders to find the continent. Even if they did, they would have to break through the 5 sealing planets to be able to affect it. However, because too much time had passed, or perhaps because Gu Yu himself did not want to seal off Shenwu continent, the 5 sealing planets were not that powerful. Even so, those 5 enormous source boxes had still shocked Lu Yin. At the time he had not understood who could use such enormous source boxes to set up an array, but now he understood. Gu Yu had to be a real Yuan formation master or even an origin celestial master. If Gu Yu was an origin celestial master, then he would be the same as Mu Shang, a genius who had yet to reach the peak of envoys or even half-ancestors. However, Gu Yu was probably much older than Mu Shang. Lu Yin had always relied on Gu Yu's letter when it came to lock breaking, but the moment Mu Shang activated that sourcebox array, he suddenly remembered that Gu Yu's sourcebox array had been incomplete. Then he recalled that Gu Yu's notes had also contained information about this sourcebox array, but it had been rather incomplete. Thus, he had purposely conversed with Mu Shang and tried to recall and use his experience to search for the only flaw that could affect this sourcebox array. If he had not seen this sourcebox array in Gu Yu's letter, then he definitely would not have been able to find it and would have lost without a doubt. He had thought that many people knew how to set up this sourcebox array, but based on Divine Master Gu Yan's attitude, there might not be many who knew. Gu Yan became even more excited when he heard Gu Yu's name. Where is Gu Yu? He's my disciple. Lu Yin stared blankly at Gu Yan. One was Gu Yan and the other was Gu Yu. He died a long time ago and was buried on the 5th mainland. Gu Yan's body swayed. He had always acted like a money grubber and an eccentric person, but at this moment he was like an old man who had lost a loved one. Xiao Cui hurried over to support him. Gu Yan's expression was sorrowful. I guessed it. If he wasn't dead, then why didn't he come to see me? He really did die. Lu Yin sighed. Senior, my condolences. He then took out Gu Yu's letter and handed it to Gu Yan. Gu Yan stared blankly at Gu Yu's letter before taking it and flipping through it with trembling hands. Gu Yu's letter was incomplete, and Lu Yin had not read it ever since he had become a Realm Origin Celestial Master. However, he had already memorized the contents, so there was no need for him to keep it. He could give it to Gu Yan. He did not suspect that Gu Yan was lying to him. Gu Yu was a powerhouse who had died a long time ago, so why would the #1 Origin Celestial Master of the Cosmic Trees lie to him? Besides, there was nothing in Gu Yu's letter that was worth paying attention to. At this time, many people gathered around Mu Shang. Some helped him up, but his injuries were so severe that he kept coughing up blood. Everyone watched in silence, their gazes filled with confusion and confusion. How had a Realm Origin Celestial Master defeated an Origin Celestial Master? It was impossible. Xia Ziheng clenched his fists. He had done it again, one miracle after another. From fighting his way out of the divine martial heaven, escaping the pursuit of ancestor Shinji, stopping 2 progenitor-level experts in the abandoned land, and using some unknown method to reach an agreement with the 4 cardinal scales, each and every one of them was filled with inconceivable wonder. They were all miracles and he had done them all. This kid was like the 5th mainland's most dazzling star. His birth was supposed to create miracles. Was the Lu family destined to rule the 5th mainland? Even Kuei Luo fell silent. He had guessed that Lu Yin would win, as he never did anything he was not confident in. But now that he had actually won, he could not believe it. No one else had heard the conversation between Lu Yin and Celestial Master Gu Yan, or else they would not have been so surprised. If not for Mu Shang's hidden corner sourcebox array and Lu Yin's coincidental guess, the final result would not have been certain. Lu Yin had not been confident that he would be able to seize control of the tiger sourcebox, so he could only say that this was fate. Mu Shang stared at Lu Yin in disbelief as he could not understand how he had lost. Could this person's innate gift have reached the level where he could see through sourcebox arrays with a single glance? That was impossible. If that was the case, then Mu Shang would have lost long ago. In the Sovereign Realm, Bai Wang Yuan and the others were silent. Mu Shang had lost. He had lost. Bai Wang Yuan realized that he was not too surprised. Was it because this kid had created too many miracles? The fog ancestor looked down with bright eyes. She seemed to see Huiwen's shadow in Lu Yin. Chapter 2368. At the entrance to the back of the battlefield, Lu Yin put away his sourcebox and looked at Mu Shang. Are you convinced? Mu Shang stared at Lu Yin with the help of others. You learned the hidden corner. Lu Yin sneered. Not convinced? If I can beat you once, I can beat you again and again. I'll give you time to recover, and I'll look for you the moment I officially become an Origin Array Heavenly Master. He then bade farewell to Gu Yan and the others and prepared to leave. Mu Shang's expression turned ugly. Lu Yin's arrogant attitude made him feel like he was giving out charity. Inexplicably, the same scene played out in front of him as a youth who resembled Lu Yin appeared, looking down at him with a smile. Mu Shang spat out another mouthful of blood and he nearly fainted from anger. Lu Yin found it strange. He had only said one sentence, but he had spat out blood again. Was his injury that serious? Why are we seeing that planet here? Someone exclaimed. Then everyone looked up and saw a magnificent scene. A red planet had appeared in the dark sky, its color resplendent and dazzling. Lu Ying also looked up and frowned. Was this the bad star? He had once merged with the body of someone called Zhou Xian, who was a protector of the Temple of Bad Star. This planet was clearly the bad star. It was one of the 7 main planets in the outside world, and it shouldn't have been visible at the back of the battlefield. Even if it could be seen, it should have been there long ago. Could it have just appeared? Just as he was thinking about this, the hellworm suddenly stood up and bared its fangs as it stared at the bad star with a solemn expression. Lu Ying stared at the red planet as a black dot approached. It was getting closer and closer, constantly shuttling through the void and causing ripples to form in the void before tearing it apart. Was that a general appointment platform? Lu Yin's eyes narrowed as he stared at the descending object. Wasn't that a general appointment platform? Gu Yan, Kue Luo, and the culinary god all looked up at the approaching black dot. It was a general appointment platform. The general appointment platform belonged to the Lu family, and no one had expected it to appear here. When he saw that it was a platform, he was confused. Whose platform was this? Was there someone alive in the Lu family? Suddenly, a warning sign appeared in his mind. An indescribable sense of crisis made his nerves jump. An intense chill rose from his back. He subconsciously wanted to escape. There was a killing intent, an incomparable killing intent. With no time to think, Lu Ying immediately wanted to borrow Lu Jian's rune lines, but in an instant, the point general platform descended and suppressed Lu Ying. The platform was covered in dust and there was even a dark red residue on its surface. With the appearance of the point general platform, the battlefield behind him seemed to come to a standstill. A violent, tyrannical progenitor's power caused everyone, the corpse king and the beasts, to freeze in place. That power was like a bloodthirsty purgatory, causing everyone to go crazy and suffocate. This was a berserk sensation. The moment it appeared, the darkest side of everyone's heart erupted, causing countless people's eyes to turn dark red. Lu Ying stared fixedly at the point general appointment platform that was suppressing him, but he could not move. He was clearly under the same progenitor's pressure, but he had been prepared against Xianxia and the others. However, he was not prepared for this power. The rumbling of the suppression, the hellworm's low roar, and his own heartbeat filled his mind. At that moment he seemed to see a pair of crazy eyes through the point general appointment platform. He had seen these eyes before when he had been traveling through space-time. They belonged to Madman Lu. From the red planet's appearance to the point general appointment platform, the point general appointment platform seemed to have been suppressed for a long time, but it had only been an instant. Even Wuxia, who was a ruler, had not been able to block it in time. He could only watch as the point general appointment platform descended on Lu Yin's head and suppressed him without him being able to react. At this moment no one could help him. Even if he had a corpse and a pair of slippers in his cosmic ring, he could not move. This moment had been premeditated for a long time, and it had come from someone who had not even thought of giving Lu Ying a chance to resist. The gaze fell and there was a bloodthirsty madness within it. Everyone from the Lu family had to die. Everyone who saw this scene was certain that Lu Ying would definitely die, and even Lu Ying himself felt that he would definitely die. When the point general appointment platform descended, there would be nothing left of Lu Yin's corpse, and even his arcane art of life and death would be useless. At that moment, the void in front of Lu Yin's eyes split open, and a hand reached out and slapped the point general appointment platform. The suppressive momentum of the point general appointment platform was stopped, and it was immediately pushed back. This unforeseen event only lasted for an instant. When the point general appointment platform was pushed back, the hand also disappeared. All Lu Ying could see were the numerous scars on the back of the hand, and he could also vaguely hear 2 words. Was it worth it? Lu Ying did not know if he had heard wrong. He wanted to clearly see the owner of the hand, but the void returned to normal and everything returned to normal. There was only a trace of gray that flowed around. This was a trace of time. Lu Ying looked at the gray. The power of time. Could it be Senior Wuxia? At that moment, a glowing evil Sarira appeared in space behind the battlefield and Wuxia appeared. He looked up at the red planet. I won't allow you to attack again. The red planet did not reply and it simply vanished like a curtain call. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. That tyrannical power had almost caused them to lose control of themselves. Even half-ancestors felt the same way. Gu Yan stared deeply into space. What a terrifying progenitor power. If it had not come from the outer realm, he would have thought that an eternal progenitor had attacked. Kuei Luo hurried to Lu Yin's side. Kid, are you all right? Lu Yin shook his head and looked into space. Wuxia had landed. Everyone bowed. Greetings, Governor. Greetings, Governor. Wuxia sized Lu Yin up with a solemn expression. Are you all right? Lu Yin shook his head. If Senior Mu hadn't acted in time, I would have died. Wuxia replied, I haven't acted yet. Lu Yin did not understand. The one who pushed the Point General appointment platform out wasn't Senior Wuxia? Everyone was shocked. Senior Wuxia? Governor Wuxia was Lu Xiaoshuan Sr.? Only a few people knew about this, and the 4 cardinal scales could not possibly spread the news for Lu Yin. They were eager for everyone to think that Lu Yin was bait that they had used to lure out the remaining members of the Lu family, just like Chao. Wuxia shook his head. It wasn't me. Lu Yin had not expected that it had not been Senior Wuxia. Then who was it? That grayness was clearly the power of time. Among the progenitors that Lu Yin knew of, only Xianxia and Wuxia had the power of time. Even if the others had the power, they would not have been able to push the Point General appointment platform out. Wait, if it was the power of time, then could that palm have come from the river of time? Could it have come from the past, or could it have come from the future? Do you know who attacked you? Wuxia asked. Lu Yin nodded. Return to the 5th mainland. Madman Lu won't let you off. He's a madman, Wuxia said gravely. He was confident that the 4 cardinal scales would be wary of him because they cared about too many things. The more they cared, the easier it would be for others to exploit their weaknesses. However, Madman Lu was different. He was a madman, and there was no way to reason with a madman. Lu Yin glanced at Xia Ziheng and the others from the 4 cardinal scales. How had Madman Lu known that he was coming? The 4 cardinal scales must have told him, and the most likely culprit was Xia Shenji. Lu Yin had been too careless. He had thought that he would be safe with Lu Jian's Point General appointment platform and the caged WM, but in reality, other than the 4 cardinal scales, there were still other powerful progenitors in this region who could act against him. Of course, Lu Yin's reliance was not weak. Aside from Madman Lu, it was very difficult for anyone else to pose such a threat to him. The main reason was that he had been confused by the Point General appointment platform. If it had not been the Point General appointment platform but something else, he would have had time to react. Who would have thought that the power that had almost killed him was the one that he was most familiar with? Don't worry, Senior Mu. He won't have a second chance, Lu Yin said sternly. Wuxia looked at Lu Yin. No one knows what tricks Madman Lu has up his sleeves. The fact that he betrayed the Lu family means that he has no bottom line. It's best if you go back. He then left and returned to the sovereign realm. From start to finish, he did not ask who had helped Lu Yin. Lu Yin guessed that it had been him, but that meant that Lu Yin himself did not know. This was interesting. Lu Yin knew that Wuxia was right. The safest way was to return to the 5th mainland, but he still had things to do in this region. Madman Lu was clearly colluding with the Eternals, but the 4 cardinal scales did not seem to know. Otherwise, they would not have allowed him to be on Nightmare Planet. Madman Lu was on Nightmare Planet, and he should be that nightmare ancestor. The sudden killing intent caused everyone's expressions to turn grave. Many people were happy that Lu Yin had been killed, but they also thought about themselves. If even Lu Yin, who could fight against a progenitor, had almost been killed, what about the others? They felt as if their fates were being controlled by someone else. Even though they had always known that progenitors could control their lives, no progenitor had ever acted against them. Now they had all experienced it firsthand. Even Xia Ziheng, Wu Yao, and the other half-ancestors were terrified. Wuxia returned to the sovereign's realm, but he did not look for by Wang Yuan and the others. He had guessed that these people must have told Madman Lu about Lu Yin's appearance. Otherwise, with Madman Lu's personality of always being in seclusion, he would not have known about Lu Yin's appearance. From Bai Wang Yuan's point of view, they had not done anything wrong. Madman Lu had attacked, not them, and everyone knew that they wished for Lu Yin's death. In the sovereign's realm, Bai Wang Yuan retracted his gaze, his expression uncertain. Someone helped Lu Xiaoxian push Madman Lu out of the stage. Who was it? Wuxia? No, he didn't react in time, Wang Fan said. Xia Shenji said, if even Wuxia, who was watching the battlefield from the back, didn't react in time, who else could have helped Lu Xiaoxian? The dragon ancestor guessed, Don't forget that these three have a master. Bai Wangyuan raised his brows. Stop pretending. Even if they do have the same master, it must be someone we know. So what if we trace it back to the era of the Above Heaven sect? Wang Fan shook his head. That might not be the case. Because of the three of them, we thought too highly of their mysterious master. But what if he's just an ordinary progenitor? For example, Lu Xiaoshuan's master Ichi existed before we became famous. If Ichi had wanted to take us as his disciples back then, it wouldn't have been impossible. After all, he was a progenitor and now Ichi is nothing to us. So you're saying that their master is just an ordinary progenitor who hasn't left much of a stir in history? He's not from the same generation as us, and perhaps his seniority is higher than ours, which is why we haven't interacted with him before. Bai Wangyuan asked. Chapter 2369. Hearing Wang Fan and Bai Wangyuan's words, Xia Shenji said, that's possible. Otherwise, why didn't he show himself? Progenitors like Yi Qi are nothing in front of us. Maybe Wuxia and the other two are just trying to confuse us. Don't forget what Lu Xiaoxian is best at, Ancestor Long said. The other three's expressions turned ugly. What was he best at? Of course it was a fake threat. Otherwise he wouldn't have been able to trick the four directions scales. It's a pity that he only has one chance. He won't succeed even if he tries again. Lu Xiaoxian will definitely be more cautious, Wang Fan sighed. Bai Wangyuan was helpless, but he didn't know what to say. They actually had such a headache when facing a junior with 3 origin tribulations. The failed ambush was a headache for many, including Lu Yin himself. Although he had increased his vigilance against the starry sky trees, he also recognized his own shortcomings. He had many methods to deal with progenitors. Although he might not be able to defeat them, he could at least stall for time. However, these methods were built on the basis that he had enough time to react. If he couldn't react quickly enough, or if he couldn't react at all, then he would be in danger. A progenitor putting aside his pride to launch a sneak attack was terrifying. No one dared to say that they could remain calm in the face of a progenitor's sneak attack. Even 9 mountains and 8 seas didn't want to be targeted by a progenitor and be ready to launch a sneak attack at any time. Lu Yin knew that he was far from reaching 9 mountains and 8 seas level, and he didn't want to leave the starry sky trees. There were many things that he needed to do here, such as Xian Academy's mountains and seas, the Lu family's remaining officials, the 4th Foundation and the food paradise. He needed to think of a way to increase his confidence in facing a progenitor. Although external items were useful, the restrictions were too great. It would be best if he could increase it by himself. If he could increase his defense to the point that a progenitor's attack couldn't kill him, then that would be perfect. Only Lu Yin dared to think of such a thing. Even ordinary half-ancestors wouldn't dare to think of withstanding a progenitor's attack. Lu Yin had been able to fight 4 half-ancestors alone, which meant that his true power was quite high. The only thing that could achieve this was battle force. When it came to increasing a person's strength, no one was better than Hen Xian and the others. The 3rd mainland's master of the ancient path was famous for unearthing the potential of the human body, and he had created battle force, domains, spiritual force and many other powers. Just like Wu Tian, he had the ability to educate others, and he could allow someone who was not a progenitor to have the strength to directly face a progenitor. Aside from this master of the ancient path strength, Lu Yin could not think of any other power that could be used. He immediately returned to the 4th base to look for Hen Xian. The Nong family and the Lu family wanted to chat with Lu Yin, but they were blocked by the 4-way scales. Mu Shang stared at Lu Yin's departing figure. Is he going to look for me again after he becomes an Origin Array Heavenly Master? Fine, he would wait. He didn't believe that this guy could surpass him. The progenitor's ambush had caused everyone to forget about Mu Shang's crushing defeat, but news of the competition's results would still spread, and it would definitely shock the entire Cosmic Tree realm. Although Lu Yin had yet to reach the level of an Origin Array Heavenly Master, he was already publicly recognized as a quasi-Origin Array Heavenly Master. In many people's opinion, his lock-breaking ability might even be on par with Mu Shang's. Of course, there were also many who refuted that a single game was not enough to prove that Lu Yin was an Origin Array Heavenly Master. Whether or not he truly possessed the abilities of an Origin Array Heavenly Master would depend on whether or not he could unlock a source box that was qualified to become an Origin Array Heavenly Master. Such a source box could be found in both the Cosmic Tree realm and the 5th mainland. Lu Yin had originally planned to become an Origin Array Heavenly Master. However, at this moment, improving himself was more important than becoming an Origin Array Heavenly Master. With a roar, the Hellworm arrived at the fourth base and Lu Yin stomped on it. Useless thing. All you can do is watch from the sidelines. What do I need you for? The Hellworm felt wronged and it lowered its claws and bent its head. It looked at Lu Yin with large eyes that were filled with confusion. Lu Yin frowned. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. Let me tell you, even if I die, someone will still be able to control you. You look foolish, but you're actually quite scheming. He did not believe that the Hellworm had not reacted, as it had seen the general appointment platform before Lu Yin. The platform had shocked Lu Yin because it was the Lu family's power. It could cause Lu Yin to reveal an opening, but it could not cause the Hellworm to reveal an opening. The Hellworm might not have been able to block the attack, but it had still been watching. Of course, Lu Yin was not angry. The Hellworm had been forcefully subdued by his slippers, so it was normal for it to have some thoughts. Dao disciple, what was that? Lu Yin returned to the fourth base and the Emperor was puzzled. Elder Chan had also arrived and was sizing Lu Yin up. Are you all right? Lu Yin solemnly replied, that shameless old thing tried to assassinate me. I'm fine. Where's Henshin? He's at the base, the Emperor replied. Lu Yin walked towards the headquarters. Tell Henshin to come see me. The Emperor and Elder Chan exchanged glances, not knowing why Lu Yin was looking for Henshin at this time. Not long after, Henshin arrived at the headquarters and met with Lu Yin. Dao disciple, are you looking for me? Lu Yin looked at Henshin and thought about how to broach the subject. Although these people were nominally part of the New Heavens sect and were Elysium sect masters, that did not mean that they belonged to Lu Yin. At most they had a superior and subordinate relationship, and Lu Yin did not have the authority to force them to hand over everything they owned. Once Henshin broke through to the progenitor realm, it was hard to say if he would stay in the New Heavens sect or even pull Lu Yin down. No, if Henshin had the ability, he would definitely pull Lu Yin down. Lu Yin was certain of this. When he thought about this, Lu Yin felt that there was nothing he could say. No matter what Henshin thought, Lu Yin had to obtain the best cultivation method for battle force. Your master is the disciple of the Third Continent's Ancient Path Master. Ancient Path Master's research on battle force and domains is unparalleled in both ancient and modern times. Now that my battle force has reached the Warring States realm, what should I do next? Lu Yin asked. When Lu Yin mentioned the Ancient Path Master, Henshin had already guessed what he was going to say. Or rather, he had already guessed that this day would come. Ever since he had revealed the power of the dark purple substance, many people had been asking about it, wanting to learn it from him. However, even Captain Yi had not been able to learn it, let alone others. Now that Lu Yin had asked, he had already thought about how to answer. The Ancient Path Master's research on battle force and domains is indeed top-notch. There is a realm above the Warring States realm called the Palm Realm of Indestructibility, Henshin replied. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Of course he knew about the Palm Realm. In this day and age, not many people knew about it. It was a realm created by the Ancient Path Master, and if Henshin could say it, it meant that even if some of what he was about to say was false, most of it was true. Lu Yin did not expect Henshin to be so obedient as to tell him the cultivation method of battle force. From what I remember, the Ancient Path Master was not one of the 7 sky gods. The reason he researched battle force and domains was so that those without talent and resources could catch up. That is why I and Captain Yi were born. The respect that the Third Mainland has for the Ancient Path Master is something that the other mainlands don't have for the ruling clans. Even if the Lu family controls the Fifth Mainland, they would not be as popular as the Ancient Path Master in the Third Mainland. It is because of the Ancient Path Master's popularization of battle force and domains that countless ordinary weeds have the nutrients to grow, Henshin said as he reminisced. I am not the first person to learn the Palm Realm of Indestructibility. Thousands of people tried before me, but they all failed. The lighter ones had their cultivation crippled, while the heavier ones. He paused and looked at Lu Yin before continuing, were torn apart. Lu Yin raised his brows and looked at Henshin. Are you saying that those people all reached the Warring States realm? Yes. With the Daolord's abilities, he nurtured many battle force experts over a long period of time. His ultimate goal was for them to reach the Palm Realm of Indestructibility and reach the pinnacle of battle force. Unfortunately, aside from me, no one has succeeded. Lu Yin was curious as he did not doubt Henshin's words. Perhaps he was exaggerating, but it should be true. He had specifically asked Lu Bujing and the others about the purplish-black battle force, but they did not know anything about it. This meant that this battle force was not widespread. How did you succeed? Lu Yin asked. Henshin smiled bitterly. If I said it was luck, would you believe me? Yes, Lu Yin replied with a single word. Henshin was helpless. If Lu Yin had thought about it before replying, he would have believed him. But if he had answered directly, it was hard to believe. As for the palm realm of indestructibility, it relies on luck. It is a type of fusion between battle force and the physical body at the deepest level. However, everyone's body is in a different state, so the method of fusion and the degree of fusion are different. It is impossible to control. The Tao Lord once guessed that one might not even need to reach the Warring States realm to cultivate the palm realm, as long as one's battle force is able to fuse with the physical body at a deeper level. For example, an explorer's battle force can only reach the level of 2 or 3 lines. However, if they are lucky enough to fuse their battle force with the physical body, they can also reach the palm realm of indestructibility. Rather than saying that the palm realm of indestructibility is the pinnacle of battle force cultivation, it is more accurate to say that it opens up another path of battle force cultivation. In the Daolord's words, this is the true path, not the true path of battle force cultivation, but the true path of human cultivation. Lu Yin was surprised. The true path of human cultivation? This was a bit exaggerated. Then were all those who did not cultivate battle force fake? Wasn't this basically denying the primogenitor's abilities? The astral source universe had been created by the primogenitor, and even the primogenitor had not cultivated this type of battle force. Henshin looked at Lu Yin's expression. I know that you don't believe me, Tao Lord, but I do. Compared to those astral beasts, no, compared to some beasts that have never cultivated before, humans are too weak at birth. Even if we rely on our hard work and intelligence to become the masters of this universe, it is undeniable that we are born too weak. Once we lose our external cultivation, what will humans use to fight against powerful enemies? Battle force comes from a person's heart, and it comes from the foundation of the human body. There is no need to rely on external energy. Even if the fifth mainland's astral source universe is devoured, it can still cultivate battle force. If one cultivates battle force to the palm realm of indestructibility, they can also reach the limits of what humans can achieve. This is the true path of human cultivation. Getting married is really busy and tiring. Thank you, brothers, for your support. Chapter 2370. If not for the fact that the fifth mainland's astral source universe had been devoured, Lu Yin wouldn't have been so shocked by Henshin's words. But now, with everything that had happened, he actually agreed with Henshin's words. Humans could cultivate battle force without relying on the outside world, and even in extremely harsh environments, they could still reach the peak. Henshin himself cultivated battle force and was confident that he could break through to the progenitor realm. Even if he couldn't, he was still one of the 12 sect masters of the Above Heaven sect. He wasn't inferior to anyone else, especially in an environment like the fifth mainland where there was no astral source. According to what you're saying, the ancient Pathmaster has done something that benefits all of humanity, both ancient and modern, Lu Yin said. Although I don't know why the Tao Lord betrayed the human race at that time, the Tao Lord only wanted to create a path that was suitable for the human race to cultivate. However, this path was too difficult. After me, the Tao Lord found hundreds of thousands of volunteers to cultivate and let them try to fuse their battle force into their bodies, but they all failed. No one succeeded. Maybe this is a blocked path, a path that humans can't open, said Lin Feng. Lu Yin was curious. According to the ancient Pathmaster's speculations, if a sentinel cultivator could cultivate battle force and fuse it with their body, would they be able to reach the indestructible palm realm? Yes, Henshin confirmed. The Pathmaster has used this analogy before. Then how powerful would that sentinel be? Lu Yin asked. Henshin replied, according to the Pathmaster's speculations, defeating a Lemmeter shouldn't be a problem. There's also one thing that's absolutely certain: they can travel through space with their body. Only explorers can survive in space, but once a sentinel cultivator reaches the indestructible palm realm, they can also survive in space because their life essence has changed. Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back. Sentinels can travel through space and survive in the universe. They can even defeat Lemmeters above their realms. If this path could really be taken, then humans wouldn't have to fear the Eternals. They would have long since become the overlords of the universe. Unfortunately, it seems like this path will be difficult. Henshin didn't answer. He had said so much just to tell Lu Yin this point. If this path wasn't difficult, then Team E would have already grasped it. He would hide it from everyone but not from Team E. It was precisely because he was worried that Lu Yin wouldn't believe him that he had spoken so clearly. If it had been anyone else, they wouldn't have bothered to explain themselves. Alright, now that you've told me about the origin, development and future goals, it's time to tell me how to cultivate, Lu Yin said as he rubbed his forehead. Xian nodded. Dao child, you should be mentally prepared. Being able to reach the palm realm was entirely due to luck. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Lu Yin knew why Xian had said so much, but if someone had succeeded, then there was still a chance for him to succeed. Even if the chances were slim, he still hoped that Xian was lying to him. As for whether or not he was lying, he might be able to tell as he cultivated. Sengoku! Henshin shouted. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold as his battle force swept out in all directions, scorching the void. It was the Sengoku Kingdom. The moment the Sengoku appeared, many people around the general headquarters looked over and felt an extremely oppressive and domineering power. The invisible battle chi formed visible ripples and spread further and further, gradually moving towards the battlefield of the fourth formation base. All the corpse kings that were enveloped by the warring states were crushed into pieces. This was the first time Lu Yin had taken action against the corpse kings at the fourth foundation. One of the emissary corpse kings used the Red Eyes transformation and was crushed by the Sengoku Kingdom. The Yao Emperor and the others found it strange that Lu Yin had suddenly attacked. Within the general headquarters, Xian was astonished by the strength of Lu Yin's Sengoku Kingdom. Whether it was in terms of strength or range, it surpassed anyone in Team E and was second only to him. It was no wonder that Lu Yin had been able to fight 4 half-ancestors without using any external items. What Xian didn't know was that Lu Yin's Sengoku Kingdom had only broken through when he had gathered the 5th mainland. When he had fought 4 half-ancestors in Shenwu Plain, the Sengoku Kingdom hadn't been this strong. Shrink it, the range doesn't need to be so large, Xian said. Lu Yin had only used the Sengoku Kingdom to crush a wave of corpse kings and had shrunk it before attracting the attention of half-ancestors and progenitors. Xian raised his hand and a dark purple substance appeared at his fingertips. He easily passed through the Sengoku Kingdom and touched Lu Yin's wrist. Shock flashed through the depths of Lu Yin's eyes. This was the realm of palm indestructibility, where the Sengoku Kingdom was nothing. Under this power, the Sengoku Kingdom was like air. It was no wonder that even someone like the ancient Pathmaster was obsessed with this realm and called it the true path of cultivation for humans. This is the method that the Pathmaster tried for us, and this is the only thing I know. Use this point as a guide and transform the Sengoku Kingdom. If you can successfully transform the Sengoku Kingdom and extend this substance, it will mean that you've succeeded, Xian said. He then slowly retreated and looked at Lu Yin's wrist. Lu Yin looked down and saw a black dot on his wrist. This was the substance of the realm of palm indestructibility, and it looked more like a physical manifestation of battle force. It wasn't wrong to understand it this way. It was like a stone and air, and a stone could easily pass through air. No matter how powerful the Sengoku Kingdom's battle force was, it was still just air. How do I transform it? Lu Yin asked. Xian replied, there's no need to rush. The substance has just entered your body and you'll experience it soon enough. You'll naturally know how to transform it. You need to know that others can't help you with this, or else the ancient Pathmaster and I wouldn't be the only ones to reach this realm. Lu Yin glanced at Xian, not knowing if he was telling the truth or not. In any case, he had no idea how to transform it. Just as he thought about this, an intense pain shot through his wrist as if it was melting. Lu Yin looked down and saw that his wrist hadn't changed, but the melting sensation was extremely intense. No, it wasn't just intense. It felt like the pain had been magnified 10 times or even 100 times, spreading through his entire arm, his heart, his entire body, and finally his brain. In an instant, his brain felt like it was being torn apart and melted. It was normal for cultivators to experience pain, and normal pain wasn't much. Lu Yin had died a few times during his cultivation, and he had even experienced the pain of being torn apart. However, this pain made him feel like an ordinary person who had fallen into purgatory. His body was constantly being melted and disintegrated, and this pain was 100 times more intense than anything he had ever experienced before. Lu Yin exhaled and his body trembled as the pain suddenly disappeared. The black dot on his wrist also vanished. Hen Xen wasn't surprised, it failed. Lu Yin looked at his wrist and then at Hen Xen. What happened? Hen Xen definitely hadn't done anything to him, and even with Hen Xian's strength he wouldn't be able to inflict such pain on Lu Yin even if he could kill him. It was too deep, and even though the pain had disappeared, Lu Yin was still panting heavily. He had once again experienced what it felt like to be an ordinary person. Hen Xen explained, no matter how we cultivate, the pain is still there. No matter what realm one reaches, as long as one's physical body still exists, the pain will remain. Even progenitors can't completely control their own bodies, and if their bodies die, they die as well. This is what the Tao Lord said, which is why he said that the realm of mastery is the true path of cultivation for humans. This is the only path that allows one to truly control their own bodies. Tao Lord, you must have experienced that pain. With your current cultivation, you shouldn't have been able to experience it, but now you've truly experienced it. This is the human body, and you can't cut off the sensation of pain. It comes from the deepest senses of the human body, and our understanding of our own bodies is still far from enough. Lu Yin frowned. Speak more clearly. Hen Xen explained, in the Daolord's words, if we can truly control our own bodies, then we won't be injured at all. Even the slightest injury can be healed in an instant, and as long as there's a possibility of recovery, we can live forever. We can control everything about ourselves and live as long as the stars. This is true control of one's own body, but not even progenitors have reached this level. There are too many components in the human body, just like cells. What the Tao Lord meant was that when a person can truly control their own bodies, every cell will become a universe. Lu Yin blinked. Tao Lord Gu is really daring. Hen Xen sighed. Tao Lord, you've already tried, but unfortunately you failed. Do you still want to try? I can responsibly say that no matter how many times you try, it'll be the same. Unless you're lucky enough to find the point where battle force just happens to fuse into your body, you won't succeed. The probability of that happening is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Lu Yin muttered to himself for a moment and then smiled. I have my domain. Finding a needle in a haystack is easy. Hen Xen was stunned. Was that what he meant? Continue, I'll try again, Lu Yin said. Hen Xen shook his head, knowing that Lu Yin didn't believe him. Sengoku. With that, Lu Yin released Sengoku and Hen Xen tapped out with a finger. A black dot appeared on Lu Yin's wrist, and the same thing happened again. That soul-piercing pain assaulted him, almost tearing him apart. If he really died, then so be it, as the pain would only last for a moment. However, he wouldn't truly die, he would have to endure it and search for that opportunity to fuse with his body. Failure. Failure. After repeating the same process so many times, Hen Xen grew tired. Lu Yin's face was already pale from the pain, but he didn't give up. Hen Xen had said so much to tell Lu Yin that the chances of success were extremely low, but Lu Yin had heard about the true path of cultivation for humans. He had heard about how sentinels could survive in the universe, about the changes in the nature of life, and about how a single cell could become a universe. These words made him want to reach the realm of the palm even more. Besides, Lu Yin was also experimenting with his own methods. In Tao Lord Gu's era they had only tried one method, but things were different now. There was a corresponding countermeasure to this pain, and it was precisely this. Things move in the opposite direction. As long as the pain was real, it could be absorbed. Things move in the opposite direction could even be used on the ethereal power of time. Lu Yin had endured the pain so many times because he wanted to experience the possibility of absorbing pain in the opposite direction. Now, after a few days, he could finally test it out. He was sure that things would move in the opposite direction. Chapter 2371. Next, I'll use the battle technique. What you need to do is to add it to me when the black substance disappears. It'll be seamless, Lu Yin said. Hen Xen was shocked. You're going to continue? Looks like you know, Lu Yin said. Hen Xen solemnly said, think about it. You've experienced that pain many times, so you should know that it won't disappear no matter how long you experience it. In fact, it'll only get more and more painful. Someone once asked the Tao Master to help him continue to experience it, but his mind eventually collapsed. After that failure, he became a madman, and even the Tao Master couldn't help him recover. How long did that person last? Lu Yin asked. Hen Xin took a deep breath. A day and a half. Lu Yin was shocked. A day and a half? That kind of pain was unbearable even for Lu Yin. Even if his willpower could endure it, his body couldn't. Lu Yin didn't know where the pain came from or how the ancient Dao master had found it, but he could feel that if he didn't use matter reverses, his body wouldn't be able to last for half a day. If someone could last for a day and a half, then that person's willpower was ridiculous. There's no need to say anything else. Let's start. If I can't endure it, I'll give up, Lu Yin said. Hen Xin had stayed on the fifth mainland for more than 20 years, so he knew a lot about the Dao Source Sect's 9 mountains and 8 seas. He had heard of Ancestor Ku and he had also seen Lu Yin use matter reverses. Every time he saw it, he felt that this battle technique was mystical. Anyone who cultivated to the progenitor realm was an elite of the human race, and Ancestor Ku had clearly surpassed that level. He was on the same level as Progenitor Qin and the Talisman Progenitor. Anyone who understood matter reverses would know how mystical this battle technique was. It was so mystical that it could even affect time. Hen Xin watched Lu Yin use matter reverses. Had he already confirmed that this battle technique was effective after so many attempts? He released the Sengoku technique and Hen Xin tapped out with a finger. A black dot appeared on Lu Yin's wrist. The pain came as expected and Lu Yin's withered body began to recover. Lu Yin gritted his teeth and endured the pain. It was indeed effective and he began to try again. The purplish-black substance was about to disappear, but Hen Xin pointed out once more. The pain continued unabated and Lu Yin's physical body continued to recover. Then it shriveled up, recovered and shriveled up. 2 hours, 4 hours, half a day. More than half a day went by and Henshin looked at Lu Yin's wrist in exhaustion. He still hadn't succeeded and he heaved a sigh of relief. Just how many times did he have to try? A day passed and Lu Yin gritted his teeth and persevered. If it weren't for the fact that things would always move in the opposite direction when pushed to the extreme, he wouldn't have lasted this long. He had the willpower to endure the pain, and his physical body had been given to the opposite effect. This was the fundamental reason why he had been able to persevere until now. A day passed, and Lu Yin continued to endure the pain while Hen Xin continued to help him maintain the dark purple substance. In the beginning he only needed to cover his fingertips with the purplish-black substance. Now he needed to cover his entire arm. The purplish-black substance on his entire arm had decreased significantly. Hen Xin looked at his arm. If he was like this for a day he wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. There was also a limit to how far things could go in the opposite direction, and even though this kind of pain was excruciating, it was still far from the intensity of a half-martial ancestor's attacks. In other words, the limit that Lu Yin had endured when he had been attacked by 4 half-martial ancestors was something that he could endure for a very long time now. For a very long time. 2 days passed. Lu Yin discovered that he seemed to be able to use the energy stored in the opposite direction to counteract the pain. Lu Yin had used this ability to defeat Progenitor Qin during his emissary origin tribulation, and he had also used this ability to kill half-ancestor Chai. Now he was absorbing pain and he was counteracting it in the opposite direction, which meant that he was also absorbing pain. It was becoming more and more mysterious. Not only could it be used to control time, but it could also counteract the pain. Lu Yin admired Ancestor Ku even more. But now wasn't the time to admire him. Since Lu Yin could counteract the pain, then he would have a lot of time to think about. Hen Xin watched as Lu Yin endured for 3 days, 4 days and then 5. He didn't know what to say as he was well aware of this kind of pain. Even the ancient Pathmaster had said that even a half-martial ancestor with the strongest willpower could not last more than 3 days, but Lu Yin had already endured for 5 days. He desperately wanted to see the ancient Pathmaster and tell him that there was someone here who could endure for 5 days. Lu Yin had already endured for 5 days, and he didn't know if Lu Yin could reach the realm of mastery. Even if he was looking for a needle in a haystack, there was still a chance. Moreover, the probability was not as high as looking for a needle in a haystack. The ancient Pathmaster had once said that if someone continuously tried for a longer period of time, they would definitely be able to reach the realm of mastery. As for how long this period of time was, Hen Xin didn't know, and neither did the ancient Pathmaster. 10 days. A full 10 days passed and Lu Yin was still trying. Hen Xin couldn't hold on any longer. Even if it was just 1 point at a time, there would be many points in a day. After 10 days, The blackish-purple substance that covered his body had thinned by a layer. If not for the fact that he was afraid that Lu Yin would attack him, he would have ended the process. Hen Xen admired Lu Yin for enduring the pain for 10 days, but he didn't know how Lu Yin had done it. Perhaps this child had experienced a great test of perseverance. Yes, if not, how could he have achieved this at such a young age? When he thought of this, Hen Xian's admiration grew from the bottom of his heart. Even when Lu Yin had borrowed progenitor Chen's strength to suppress the Fifth Mainland, and even when he had defeated Xiaxia and the other two half-progenitors, Hen Xian had never admired Lu Yin. He had come from the era of the above heavens and he had seen many top powerhouses. The 3 realms and 6 Daoists were not something that the current progenitors could compare to. But at this moment he truly admired Lu Yin. Perhaps the ancient Pathmaster would also admire Lu Yin if he saw this scene. Elder Chan and the others had visited the headquarters several times, but they didn't know what was going on inside. Even so, they didn't try to barge in. They weren't worried about Lu Yin's safety. Outside of a progenitor, there was no one who could threaten Lu Yin. Lu Yin was already immersed in his endless attempts. Even though he was able to offset some of the pain, the remaining pain was still unbearable. It took a lot of perseverance to endure for 10 days. Recommended an app that seemed to have revived an old version of the Book Chaser artifact. It could be used to exchange all origin source books. Hen Xin sighed. The blackish-purple substance was about to disappear, and he tapped out to extend it. He wondered if his realm of mastery would be exhausted because of this. Suddenly he froze and stared blankly at Lu Yin's wrist. The black dot hadn't disappeared. He thought that he was hallucinating. He had been extending it for the past few days, and he knew that the black dot should have disappeared by now. How could it still exist? Unless... He looked at Lu Yin in shock. Lu Yin opened his eyes at the same time and met Hen Xian's gaze. His lips curled up as he said, "Thank you. I succeeded." Hen Xian was stunned. He had succeeded. Those 3 simple words had caused Hen Xian's thoughts to jump from the era of the above heaven sect to the present. At that time, the Pathmaster had been overjoyed to see his own success, as it meant that the path he had created was correct. Now another person had succeeded. Really? Lu Yin nodded. His pain had disappeared the moment he had succeeded. His battle force was transforming into the realm of mastery. The process was a little long, but he wasn't afraid of time. Hen Xin looked at Lu Yin with a complicated expression. Was he happy? Or was he fearful? Or was it something else? He didn't know if this person was truly born from the destiny of the human race. He had even succeeded in cultivating the realm of mastery. Battle force in the realm of mastery is completely different from battle force, right? Lu Yin asked as he stared at the black dot on his wrist. He had seen Hen Xin fight an ancient god in the realm of mastery, but because his opponent had been an ancient god, he hadn't been able to see how powerful the realm of mastery was. He had almost been killed by the ancient god at the time. However, Lu Yin had seen Hen Xin fight in the realm of mastery many times in Hen Ye's memories. Almost all of them were close-range battles. Compared to the Sengoku realm, the realm of mastery lacked the advantage of range, but its destructive power was much greater. Hen Xin said, "There are many ways to fight in the realm of mastery. It's actually not that different from battle force. You can treat it as a physical form of battle force. It doesn't seem to have the same range as the Sengoku realm." Hen Xin shook his head. The range of battle force is meaningless against someone who can defeat you in the realm of mastery. Lu Yin thought about it and agreed. "Besides, this is just my usage of the realm of mastery," Hen Xin said, his eyes filled with nostalgia and longing. Lu Yin didn't understand at first, but he quickly figured it out. The ancient Pathmaster's usage of the realm of mastery is different. Hen Xian smiled bitterly. Of course it's different. The ancient Pathmaster has already fused his physical form of battle force into his body. Although there are veined patterns on his body, he doesn't have this dark purple substance. Daozi, you fought with the 9 mountains and 8 seas and experienced how terrifying their ancestral worlds are. Every progenitor has their own ancestral worlds, just like how half-progenitors have their own inner worlds. The so-called ancestral worlds are spaces created by progenitors themselves and give birth to creatures that belong to that world. They have their own unique civilizations, beliefs, and so on. The more stable these civilizations are, the stronger the ancestral worlds are. Lu Yin listened quietly. There were some things that the fog ancestor had told him before, but he hadn't gone into detail. He hadn't had a chance to talk to Wuxia alone either. His master had disappeared, and only the blood ancestor was left on the fifth mainland. However, the blood ancestor probably thought that Lu Yin already knew since he could fight against a progenitor. Right, there was also Big Sis, but she had probably forgotten about it herself. When Xianxia attacked, I saw blade-like life forms in his divine sword domain. They were cultivating, living and praying. These were all Xianxia's powers, and a progenitor with an ancestral world is almost unfathomable. However, the ancient path master believes that the realm of mastery is the true path of cultivation for humans. Dozy, can you guess why? Hen Exen looked at Lu Yin with a burning gaze. Lu Yin subconsciously replied, because the realm of mastery can also give birth to an ancestral world? Hen Exen nodded. Lu Yin's expression changed. He had only guessed along with Hen Exen's words, and it was only after he finished speaking that he realized how ridiculous his own words sounded. How was that possible? Cultivating battle force to the realm of mastery could give birth to an ancestral world? The ancestral world was clearly the endpoint of the progenitor's cultivation of external energy. The realm of mastery cultivated one's inner strength, so how could it be cultivated? Could it really be that different paths led to the same destination? Just as Lu Yin had guessed before, when one's strength reached a certain threshold, they could cross the river of time? Even without the power of time they could still control it? Chapter 2372. The Daolord's realm of mastery is comparable to an ancestral world. Although it's different from a true progenitor's ancestral world, it's not inferior to any ancestral world at all. This is also why the Daolord is certain that this is the true path of human cultivation. There's also another crucial point. Battle force doesn't require one to break through the 3 stages, Hen Exen said solemnly. Lu Yin was truly astonished. The third mainland's ancient path master, who was now an ancient god of the 7 god heavens, had actually created an ability that allowed one to cultivate the ancestral world without breaking through the first 3 stages. Lu Yin's shock was no less than when he had first learned that things could move in the opposite direction when they reached an extreme. It was no less than when he had first learned about the Rune Line civilization, or when he had learned about progenitor Chen's past. Regardless of whether it was the Daoist sect's era of the 9 mountains and 8 seas or the above heaven sect, there had always been shocking geniuses who had created all sorts of powers that had refreshed everyone's understanding of power. Even Bai Wangyuan and the others would not have believed that one could reach the progenitor realm without breaking through the 3 stages, let alone Lu Yin. Yet the ancient Dao master had actually succeeded. So you didn't break through the 3 stages? Lu Yin looked at Hen Exen in surprise. Hen Exen answered, I did. Lu Yin was stunned. The Dao Lord said that one can reach the realm of mastery without breaking through the 3 stages, and he's only tried it on one person. That person lasted for a day and a half before finally going crazy. I can't compare to him, but he was unlucky. Hen Exen interjected. Source-changing divine tool app, it was really not bad and it was worth it. After all, there were many books and they were updated quickly. Lu Yin had already cultivated to the realm of mastery, and Hen Exen had already revealed many things. If Lu Yin had not cultivated to the realm of mastery, he would not have said these things. Lu Yin finally understood why Hen Exen was so certain that he could cultivate to the progenitor realm. The ancient Dao master had already paved the way for him. But was it really that easy? Lu Yin did not believe it. Even if he cultivated to the realm of mastery, it should not be that easy to create a power similar to the ancestral world. Even if he had a power similar to the ancestral world, would he really become an progenitor? Seeing that Lu Yin was deep in thought, Hen Exen stood there quietly. What he had said might have made Lu Yin even more fearful of him, but it was more likely that Lu Yin wanted to see how he would walk the path of the progenitor realm. After all, Lu Yin had already cultivated to the palm realm, and he had already said what he would do next. He would definitely need someone to explore the path for him, and Hen Exen was the most suitable person and the only candidate. Now that Lu Yin had reached the palm realm, Hen Exen's greatest fear was that he would no longer be of any use to Lu Yin. But now he no longer needed him. Lu Yin did indeed need someone to scout ahead for him, and he had no intention of doing anything to Hen Exen. He could not possibly attack a half-ancestor just because of his personal fear. Hen Exen left, having said everything that needed to be said. Now it would take a long time for Lu Yin to completely transform his battle force into that dark purple substance. After Xianxia left, Lu Yin raised his hand and watched the die spin. He tapped it with a finger and the die slowly stopped spinning. 5 pips. Borrow innate gift. Lu Yin's figure vanished and reappeared outside the headquarters. Xianxia had not gone far and he seemed to be thinking about something as he walked. Suddenly, a hand patted his shoulder, startling him and causing him to instinctively retaliate. Lu Yin quickly retreated. Stop. Xianxia stared blankly at Lu Yin. Daoist, what are you doing? Lu Yin replied, nothing much. I wanted to test the strength of your palm realm, but instead of using battle force, you subconsciously used a domain. Why? Are you an expert in domains? Xianxia retracted his gaze. There's a delay in using battle force in the palm realm, but not in domains. Lu Yin understood. No wonder. Then is there a domain that surpasses the Void God realm? Xianxia replied, there is. It's called the Void Realm. The Daoist envisioned that once one reaches this realm, they can extend or shrink space and time at will. They can also easily control the power of time and travel through parallel space. However, this is only an ideal realm and not even the Daoist has reached it. Lu Yin was shocked. There's such a realm? Then cultivate well. I hope that you'll reach it in the future. He then vanished. Xianxia stared blankly at Lu Yin. Even the Daoist hadn't reached it. No matter how confident Lu Yin was, there were some things that could never be done. But what had Xianxia been trying to do? Was he testing him? He couldn't figure it out. Back at the headquarters, Lu Yin looked at his die and saw that there were no new innate gifts. Xianxia really didn't have any. He collected his thoughts and started rolling his die for the second time. At the same time, someone came to the headquarters to seek an audience with Lu Yin. It was Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian stood outside the headquarters, waiting for Lu Yin to appear. Lu Yin entered the time-stop space with his dies in hands and began to convert battle force. The conversion process took a long time, but with the dies in hands it wasn't a problem. Lu Yin recited the primogenitor's scripture while converting battle force. A year quickly passed and purplish-black lines appeared on his body. They spread from his wrist to his entire body, forming a unique pattern. The formation of the purplish-black matter was related to the amount of battle force converted. If it had been the Lu Yin of the past, the purplish-black wouldn't have been able to cover even his arm. Now, however, the battle force formed by the warring states of millions of kilometers was enough to cover his entire body. Correspondingly, it would take longer than Xianxia had expected. Perhaps Xianxia hadn't been able to convert so much battle force when he'd reached the palm realm. Is that Zhou Xian? Let him in, Lu Yin ordered as he ended his training in the time-stop space and converted a portion of his battle force. At this moment his battle force was enveloped by the Mastery Realm's battle force, and he could clearly feel how powerful his body was. Once he finished converting all of his battle force, he would be able to fight against a half-progenitor. That's right, Xianxia and the others already had a definition of how battle force corresponded to a cultivator's strength. If that was the case, then what level would a warring state's battle force correspond to? Perhaps a half-ancestor. If the Daoist had really researched a way for ordinary cultivators to fully integrate their battle force, then sentinels would be able to travel through space. Humanity's overall strength would soar. Zhou Xian greets the Daoist. Zhou Xian had arrived and Lu Yin looked up at him. Zhou Xian was a redback that no one knew about. What are you doing here instead of staying on the battlefield? Lu Yin asked. Zhou Xian replied respectfully, does the Daoist still remember the choice you gave me? Choice? Lu Yin was confused. Zhou Xian said, when you first took over the 4th base, you told me that if I wanted to, I could follow the above heaven's army to the 5th mainland. Lu Yin thought about it. That's true. I appreciate that you're willing to stay in the 4th base. But are you here to fulfill your choice? Zhou Xian bowed deeply to Lu Yin. Your subordinate Zhou Xian wishes to head to the 5th mainland, the true home of humanity. I wish to join the above heavens sect and rely on the Daoist. His voice was so loud that even the people outside the headquarters could hear him. Many were astonished. He was here to express his loyalty. Lu Yin looked at him with interest. Why do you want to go to the 5th mainland? With you in the 4th base. With Ji's performance, you'll definitely be able to join the frigid Immortal sect once you leave the battlefield. Bai Qi will definitely put you in an important position, and you'll be able to do whatever you want in the astral tree realm. Zhou Zizai felt bitter. He wanted to go as well, but this was not something he could decide. Your subordinate wishes to head to the true home of humanity. The fifth mainland is where this universe originates. Your subordinate wishes to rely on the Daoist. The Daoist fought a progenitor with a third tribulation origin cultivation and forced the four cardinal scales to compromise. Your subordinate admires you, and only by following the Daoist can I see hope of becoming a progenitor. Zhou Zizai's voice grew louder and more excited. Lu Yin felt like he was seeing Ku Wei. Could it be that after Ku Wei had left, more Ku Weis had come? Zhou Zizai's desire to go to the fifth mainland was definitely at the behest of the Eternals. He could be considered unlucky as he would have preferred to go to the cosmic tree instead of the fifth mainland. Lu Yin did not expose him, and Zhou Zizai continued to express his loyalty, becoming more and more excited as he spoke. Lu Yin quickly interrupted him. Alright, I know what you're thinking. You can go to the fifth mainland, join the above heavens sect, or follow me. How about this? You can go now and change your appearance. Let me see if the cosmic tree will stop other cultivators from going to the fifth mainland. Zhou Zizai's heart skipped a beat, as he knew that this was the first mission that Lu Yin had given him. However, what he saw was not only the mission but also Lu Yin's attitude. Zhou Zizai was going to the fifth mainland on Lu Yin's orders. In the eyes of the fifth mainland's people, Zhou Zizai was Lu Yin's trusted aide in the cosmic tree, and his status was no lower than anyone else's. Zhou Zizai had been able to survive on the battlefield at the back and stand out from countless others to be valued by Marquis Wui. This showed that he was capable and his way of looking at problems was extraordinary. When he thought of this, Zhou Zizai became excited. This was the benefit of being the first to submit, as he had taken the lead. It seemed that his days in the fifth mainland would not be any worse than in the cosmic tree. In fact, it might even be better. Zhou Zizai could only rely on the frigid Immortal sect as his backing in the cosmic tree, but what about the fifth mainland? Lu Yin, the leader of the cosmic tree, was his backing. Yes, I will do my best to complete this mission. This time Zhou Zizai was sincere. Lu Yin laughed. You don't need to do your best. Just pretend to be the most ordinary cultivator and see if anyone will stop you from going to the fifth mainland. Then report truthfully. Zhou Zizai bowed deeply. I'll do it right away. Lu Yin grunted and gave Zhou Zizai a wireless goo. From now on, Zhou Zizai was working for him. Lu Yin wanted to know what the Eternals would ask him to do. After Zhou Zizai left, Lu Yin wanted to roll the die again since he still had 2 chances. However, Tu Qiming came looking for him. Ever since Lu Yin had brought them up from the new city, they had all been recuperating, healing and contacting others. Lu Yin had also gone into seclusion to prepare for the game against Mu Shang, so they had not met yet. Now it was time to have a chat with Tu Qiming. Tu Qiming's memories had not been erased and there was also Wan Ziyi. Bastard Lu, I'm here. Tu Qiming walked into the headquarters of the 4th base with his head held high. Lu Yin looked at him. Mental torture again? Do you want to get beaten up? No, wait, I don't want to get beaten up. Wait, what right do you have to beat me up? Tu Qiming shouted. Lu Yin sneered. Call me boss. Tu Qiming was stunned, his gaze filled with confusion and complexity. However, he quickly recovered and said with disdain, Boss my ass. You were the one who called me boss back then. Hurry up and call me boss. Lu Yin's expression turned cold as he approached Tu Qiming. Chapter 2373. Tu Qiming's face twitched and he subconsciously retreated. What? Lu Yin didn't say anything as he walked closer. Tu Qiming gulped and smiled. Boss, I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. Lu Yin raised a hand and suddenly slammed it down, startling Tu Qiming. Save me, sis. Lu Yin's hand stopped on Tu Qiming's shoulder. Sis, is this my sis? Tu Qiming's face paled as he watched Lu Yin approach. This scene seemed to overlap. He had seen this scene too many times and even dreamed of it countless times. That was why he had wanted to be beaten up by Lu Yin when he had been tortured in the Folded Mountains. He had been trying to escape from reality, but now the same scene was playing out before him. Lu Yin looked at Tu Qiming's haggard face and retracted his hand. Tell me what happened back then. Tu Qiming rubbed his eyes and looked at Lu Yin. Bastard Lu, if it wasn't for you, things wouldn't be like this now. Lu Yin stared at Tu Qiming. He really did know what had happened back then. Explain. It was because you liked that bitch that we were all tricked. It was all because of you. Tu Qiming shouted, glaring angrily at Lu Yin. Lu Yin frowned. I want you to explain what happened on the day of the wedding. Tu Qiming roared. How would I know? You got me drunk, you bastard. I was just a kid at the time, but you actually got me drunk. You're such a bastard. Everyone says you're sunny and cheerful, but you're actually a wretched person. You were afraid that I would surpass you, so you got me drunk and delayed my cultivation. There was a loud smack as Lu Yin smacked Tu Qiming's head for real this time. You don't remember? Tu Qiming clutched his head. No, I got drunk. Trash. Lu Yin was annoyed. Tu Qiming bared his teeth. Who are you calling trash? If my innate gift wasn't crippled, I could beat you 100 times over. What was your innate gift again? Lu Yin was curious. Tu Qiming raised his head. Think for yourself. Lu Yin smacked him again. A gift that's asking for a beating. Bastard Lu, I'll fight you when my cultivation recovers. Tu Qiming roared, clearly unconvinced. Lu Yin ignored him and looked towards the fourth battlefield. He saw the 3 stacks and 10,000 divine palms. Tu Qiming followed Lu Yin's gaze and muttered, Grandpaji, you're still so fierce. At this time Wan Zi's gaze swept over the battlefield. Tu Qiming was so scared that he shrunk his neck and quickly ran away. Lu Yin stepped forward and appeared on the battlefield. Lu Yin's. Lu Yin looked Lu Yin's face. Lu Yin looked at him. I've recovered quite a bit. At this moment Wan Zi's complexion wasn't as pale as before. His aura was also very strong. When he attacked, even Elder Chan and Hen Exin looked over. Ancestor, not necessarily. As long as he's alive there's always a chance, Lu Yin replied. Tis, S's. Wan Zi took a deep breath and then slowly bowed towards Lu Yin. Wan family's grand elder Wan Zi greets the young master. Lu Yin hurriedly raised a hand to stop her. Grandpaji, there's no need for that. Wan Zi replied seriously. Etiquette cannot be ignored. No matter what happens, the Wan family will always be a vassal of the Lu family. You will always be the young master. Lu Yin looked at Wan Zi and saw his stubbornness, as well as his respect for the Lu family. After some thought, he retracted his hand and allowed Wan Zi to finish his greeting. At the edge of the battlefield, the Yao Emperor's eyelids twitched. Another half-ancestor, and he was definitely not an ordinary one. Why were there so many of them surrounding Lu Yin? He couldn't see any hope of the astral beast domain breaking away from the humans. Grandpaji, can you tell me what happened back then? Lu Yin asked. Wan Zi shook his head. Our memories were erased. Lu Yin was disappointed. He was curious as to why the 4-way scales had erased the memories of that day. Was there a need for that? Regardless of whether it was the madman in the Red Garden or the Lu family's vassal in the Folded Mountains, they should have all died. It was impossible for them to return to the astral tree domain alive. Even so, why erase their memories? Everyone knew that the Lu family had been exiled. Was there a need to erase their memories? Unless they were hiding something. All of our memories stop at the wedding celebration. The only thing left in our minds is our blessings for you, young master. There is nothing else, Wan Zi said. Lu Yin frowned. Let me say a few words. Perhaps you'll know. Even Mr. Wei had been able to find out about the Wang family's Yellow Springs through the records. Wan Zi was a vassal of the Lu family and his status was comparable to a progenitor. Young master, please speak, Wan Zi said. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. The white dragon overturned. Wan Zi's eyes narrowed. The white dragon overturned is the only race that can get close to the ancestral Mang. Even the rest of the Lu family will be attacked if they try to get close. When I say get close, I mean touch or even communicate. He added, Source Changer app. It's really not bad, it's worth installing. It even supports Android and Apple phones. The ancestral Mang overturned. It seems like Lu Tianjing was exiled because of the ancestral Mang. Not just Lu Tianjing but the entire top realm, Lu Yin said. Although Wan Zi was shocked, he still said, the ancestral Mang can do it, but I don't know how the White Dragon tribe did it. Perhaps the main family knows, but I don't. Yellow Springs water, Lu Yin said. Wan Zi was shocked. The Wang family's Yellow Springs water? The Wang family has always been hiding it, but I once heard forefather Tianyi say that the Yellow Springs water is actually blood. Blood? Lu Yin was surprised that was yellow. Was it the blood of a living being? It's blood. Forefather Tianyi guessed that it was the blood of a powerhouse from the 3 realms and 6 Daoists of the Anzac era. It might even be. His expression turned solemn. The blood of a progenitor. Lu Yin's eyes widened. The Wang family's continent is shaped like a palm. Can't really be a palm, right? If it is, why can't others see it? Wan Zi met Lu Yin's gaze. So what if they can see it? Lu Yin was stunned and fell into deep thought. That's right, so what if they can see it? Can they still snatch it? Who in the 5th mainland could snatch something from the Wang family aside from the Lu family? But even the Lu family could not do so, or else what would the other families do? The main family controls the 5th mainland, and although they can be tyrannical at times, they have never snatched anything from others. In terms of talent, they have the general platform, the Divine Seal catalog, and in terms of resources, they control the entire 5th mainland. Why would they care about a palm? Even if that palm really belongs to a progenitor, so what? Wan Zi was proud, and this was the first time Lu Yin had seen such pride. This was the first time he had seen someone from that era who was proud of being a vassal to the Lu family. He saw the Lu family's charm. What's the use of this Yellow Springs water? Lu Yin asked. Wan Zi replied, I remember that someone once came into contact with it and said that it has a terrifying binding power that can bury any powerhouse. However, the Wang family has never revealed its true abilities. Lu Yin nodded. Although Wan Zi's status was comparable to a progenitor's, even a progenitor might not be able to understand this. Since the Yellow Springs water had played a role in the Lu family's exile, it meant that the Wang family had hidden this water very well. Otherwise, the Lu family would definitely have taken precautions against it. Lu Yin guessed that even forefather Tianyi might not be able to fully understand the Yellow Springs water. Prison lock, Lu Yin said. Wan Zi replied, it's a technique from the Shenwu plane, a primogenitor's secret technique. Lu Yin was shocked. A primogenitor's secret technique? Wan Zi nodded and solemnly explained, the main family was exiled and the Xia family was in the 4 cardinal scales. I guessed that this technique would be used. The prison lock technique originated from the primogenitor, and it's rumored that the primogenitor personally bestowed this technique upon the Xia family during the era of the above heaven. Even the main family is envious of it, but only the Xia family in the entire 5th mainland possesses it. The Xia family can cultivate this technique? Then why hasn't Xianxia used it before? Lu Yin did not understand. Wan Zi was shocked. It seems that the young master has fought with Xianxia before. It's not that he doesn't want to use it, but rather that he can't. Once he uses the prison lock, he will definitely be exiled along with the main family. It's a secret technique that's only passed down through generations. Lu Yin relaxed. So that's how it is. No wonder his heart had been in his throat just now. The words primogenitor were too intimidating. Just thinking about the primogenitor's secret technique made Lu Yin's scalp go numb. He had been worried that the Xia family had hidden this technique, which would have been the end of them. But now it seemed that the Xia family had paid the greatest price. They had even lost the primogenitor's secret technique in order to exile the Lu family. What had they gained in return? Lu Yin was on high alert. The Xia family had paid such a huge price, so there had to be some sort of reward. However, he had not seen any, which meant that the Xia family was hiding something. Frigid immortal fruit, Lu Yin said. Wan Zi was surprised. It's just a fruit. The frigid immortal sect cultivates the frigid immortal finger with the help of the frigid immortal pond, and the frigid immortal fruit grows in that pond. It's very tasty and you often stole it when you were young. You were even bullied by some of the older children in the frigid immortal sect. I remember that the 7 of you became sworn brothers because of this. Lu Yin rubbed his cosmic ring and thought back to that piece of paper as well as the fragmented memories. 70. Yes, that was it. So it was because he had stolen the frigid immortal fruit and been stopped by the children of the frigid immortal sect. No wonder he had been bullied even though he was the heir of the Lu family. Lu Yin's gaze softened as he looked at the cosmic ring. His heart was filled with complex emotions. Where were his siblings? Is this what caused the main family to be exiled? Wan Zi asked. Lu Yin gathered his thoughts. Madman Lu. Wan Zi's expression changed. Madman Lu. Lu Yin nodded and looked at him. How much do you know about him? Wan Zi's expression was solemn and there was even a hint of fear. He's just like his name. He's a madman and even Patriarch Tianyi is afraid of him. Lu Yin asked. Is he so strong that even Patriarch Tianyi is afraid of him? Wanzi shook his head. I can't judge his strength, but Patriarch Tianyi once said that this madman cannot be released. If he dies one day, he has to take this madman with him before he dies. Chapter 2374. Lu Yin asked, what is Madman Lu's identity? Wanzi was helpless. I don't know. Even your father Lu Qi doesn't know. In the entire Fifth Mainland, probably only Patriarch Tianyi by Wang Yuan, and the others from the same generation as him know. He actually participated in the banishment of the main family. If Patriarch Tianyi had known earlier, he would have killed him. Lu Yin looked up in the direction where the bad star had appeared. Not only did he banish the Lu family, but he also almost killed me not long ago. Wanzi frowned and asked, where is he? Lu Yin pointed up. The ruler's realm? Wanzi was puzzled. Lu Yin replied, the outer realm. Wanzi was shocked. He actually went to the outer realm? Seems like even the four-way scale is afraid of him. What's going on in the outer realm? Lu Yin asked. He had too many questions, but he couldn't think of any at the moment. He could only ask whatever came to mind and ask in the future. In any case, Wanzi wouldn't disappear. Wanzi thought about it. How should I explain it to you? Right, you're an origin array master, so it's easy to understand. The outer realm is a source box array that protects the cosmic tree. Lu Yin was surprised. The outer realm planets themselves are source boxes? Wanzi nodded. You really can understand. Many people wouldn't have thought that such a large source box would appear, but it's actually connected to infinite energy. However, very few people know about this. I only found out from the main family that there are 7 planets in the outer realm that are scattered around the cosmic tree and connected to infinite energy. That's how they're able to defend the front lines of humanity. They're as important as infinite energy, which is why each planet is protected by a progenitor. When the main family was still around, they guarded 2 planets and each one was different. Because of the source box array's influence, the natural conditions of the cosmic tree are different. I won't explain this to you since you probably won't be guarding the outer realm for the rest of your life. The people guarding the outer worlds are either feared by the master of the starry sky of trees, or they're willing to do so. Out of the 7 planets, 1 has Madman Lu, the other 6 have the Lu clan's ancestor and the ancestor of the four-way scales. Lu Yin thought of Bai Xing, who represented the frigid immortal sect in overseeing the outer realms. This meant that each of the 4 cardinal scales had a progenitor overseeing the outer realms. This meant that the 4 cardinal scales each had a progenitor overseeing the outer realms, which meant that they had a very strong foundation. However, they still could not compare to the Lu family. Back then, the Lu family had been overseeing 2 planets, which meant that they had 2 progenitors. Even if one of them was Patriarch Tianyi, there was still Madman Lu. One family had 3 progenitors and one sect had 3 progenitors. This was the kind of power that a force in charge of the continent should possess. On the 4th battlefield, Lu Yin asked Wanzi many questions, and Wanzi patiently answered all of them. He knew that Lu Yin had lost his memories, but not just the memories of being exiled. He had lost all of Lu Xiaoshuan's memories, and Bai Xianer had only been so cruel to him. The most infuriating thing is that Tu Qiming got drunk instead of having his memories erased, Lu Yin said angrily. Bastard Lu, don't think that I can't hear you just because I'm far away. Tu Qiming's voice came from afar as he had been listening the entire time. Lu Yin naturally knew and he looked up at Wanzi. He saw the pity in the other's eyes and his heart skipped a beat. He asked, what is Tu Qiming's innate gift? The fact that he had been recognized as the 8th hero was not something that Lu Xian or any one of the 7 heroes had acknowledged. The title of the 7 heroes had come from the entire cosmic tree realm, and it had not been given to them by themselves. When the Lu family's achievements on this continent were brought up, aside from the general appointment platform and Patriarch Tianyi, the 7 heroes were the most talked about. They were the pride of an era, and even though the 7 of them had not yet matured, they were still imprints of an era. The 9 mountains and 8 seas were imprints of the Dao Source Sect's era, and the 3 realms and 6 Daos were imprints of the Above Heaven Sect's era. In that case, the 7 heroes were imprints of the era before the Lu family had been exiled, even though that era was not that far from now. Wanzi looked at Tu Qiming, who was still trying to eavesdrop, and sighed. Planet Qiming is his name and it's based on his innate gift. When the Tu family received a son, the planet Qiming descended from the heavens and shook the top realm. Even progenitors looked over, and the Tu family was so happy that they changed his name from the original order of seniority to Tu Qiming. What kind of innate gift is that? Lu Yin was astonished. For a family that had been recognized by the Lu family to change their names based on seniority, one could only imagine the shock this innate gift had brought to the Tu family. In the distance, Tu Qiming heard the words, "Planet Qiming," and his eyes dimmed as he turned to leave. Wanzi felt that it was a pity. Planet Qiming means enlightenment. As long as that planet's radiance still exists, he will not die. How long do you think a planet can live? Lu Yin's expression changed and he blurted out, "He has the same lifespan as a planet." Wanzi replied, "Although that's not very likely, that's what we knew back then." Not only that, but Qiming was also wise. His cultivation innate gift was extremely powerful, and he was not inferior to any of the 7 prodigies. The 7 prodigies were at the top of their generation and they could only compete with each other. Tu Qiming was the only child who could compete with them, so he was just as dazzling at that time. He would have been able to become the 8th prodigy. This was personally acknowledged by Patriarch Tianyi as well as all of us. His only goal was you, young master. Unfortunately, that innate gift has been crippled and he himself has been crippled. Lu Yin had not expected Tu Qiming's innate gift to be so powerful that he had the same lifespan as a planet. This possibility was not high, as any random planet had existed for countless billions of years, and it was not something that humans could compare to. Perhaps those planets in the heavens had all witnessed humanity's rise from the beginning to the glory of the above heaven sect. But even if Tu Qiming did not have the same lifespan as a planet, Planet Qiming was still of great use. A genius with extraordinary innate gifts had been turned into a cripple. Lu Yin understood Tu Qiming's sorrow, not to mention the inhumane torture that he had to endure every month. He immediately contacted Yuchen. She had been released from the 5th mainland, and she should be in the frigid Immortal sect right now. The Grim Reaper's seal had been planted in her body, and Lu Yin did not know if Bai Wangyuan would be able to break it. However, Bai Wangyuan probably would not help a nobody like Yuchen. From his perspective, it would be easier to kill her with a single palm strike. Yuchen should have thought of this as well, so she would not expose the fact that she was being controlled. The wireless goo connected and Lu Yin knew that Yuchen was still being controlled. Otherwise, the wireless goo would not have been able to contact her. "Dozi," Yuchen transmitted through the wireless goo. Lu Yin replied, "I'm looking for Bai Xian. Yuchen hesitated on the other end. Very few people knew how to contact Bai Xian, and if she told Lu Yin, Bai Xian would definitely find out. She did not dare to do so. "I said I'm looking for Bai Xian." Lu Yin sent another message. Even though there was no expression in his voice, Yuchen could feel Lu Yin's fury. If she hesitated any longer, even if Bai Xian did not find out, she would still be executed. Lu Yin would be executed. Thinking this through, she hurriedly told Lu Yin how to contact Bai Xian and the Cloud Connection Stone. In order to survive, she had taken the initiative to tell Lu Yin that she could contact Bai Xian. This was her greatest bargaining chip, and now she could finally use it. Lu Yin put away the wireless goo and took out the Cloud Connection Stone to try to contact Bai Xian. On the other side, Wanzi narrowed his eyes. There was a strong murderous intent deep in his eyes. Bai Xian, this woman played a key role in the banishment of the Lu family. More importantly, she was the one who killed Tu Qiming. Many of the surviving members of the Lu family, including the lunatics in the Red Garden, were killed by her. Even though Wanzi's memories of being banished made it impossible for him to feel hatred, his hatred grew as he learned more about the situation. The Cloud Connection Stone vibrated and an image appeared. The background was filled with red flowers and it was Bai Xian. Wanzi wanted nothing more than to kill Bai Xian the moment she appeared. Lu Yin stared at Bai Xian and she stared back at him. "You finally found me. You knew I would find you? How could I find you?" Bai Xian smiled. "You can find me as long as you want and I won't run away from you." Lu Yin didn't beat around the bush. What's up with Tu Qiming's innate gift? Crippled, Bai Xian answered naturally. Just because he's a surviving member of the Lu family? No, because he's Tu Qiming. He once spoke rudely to me. Lu Yin looked into the distance. "Tu Qiming, come here." Tu Qiming had wanted to ignore Lu Yin's call, but when he glanced over and saw Bai Xian image, his eyes widened and he rushed over. Bai Xian waited calmly as if she wasn't facing Lu Yin's mortal enemies but a stranger. However, her gaze towards Lu Yin was gentle the entire time, a gentleness amidst calmness. Such a gaze should have made anyone feel comfortable, but Lu Yin felt uncomfortable as if he had seen pity in it. Tu Qiming rushed over and glared at Bai Xian'er. Ugly woman, you didn't think Grandpa Tu would still be alive, did you? Ah. Lu Yin raised a brow. Ugly woman. Bai Xian'er was one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen, and her temperament was also unique. If it wasn't for his enmity with her, he wouldn't have minded praising her. But how had she become ugly in front of Tu Qiming? Wanzi wasn't surprised. He had obviously heard of this before. Bai Xian'er smiled at Tu Qiming. Geniuses always have flaws. I thought your face blindness was due to your high innate gift, but I didn't think that crippling your innate gift would turn out to be face blindness as well. Looks like I crippled the wrong person. Face blindness, my ass. Grandpa Tu isn't face blind. Eldest sister, fourth sister and sixth sister are much prettier than you, and Longxi is prettier than you. Even Lu San is prettier than you. Bai Xian'er smiled. It's fine if you crippled the wrong innate gift. There are still many parts of your body that can be crippled, such as your hands, legs or even tongue. Tu Qiming wanted to continue, but Lu Yin stopped him. Are you threatening him? Bai Xian'er looked at Lu Yin. You can't protect him. He spoke rudely, so he should be taught a lesson. So you're torturing him every month? Lu Yin's eyes were cold. Bai Xian'er smiled. Isn't that what I should do? Tu Qiming gritted his teeth, his lips bleeding. He was shouting happily, but in reality his hatred for Bai Xian'er was monstrous. However, he couldn't take revenge, so he could only vent his anger through this method. However, Bai Xian'er didn't react at all, which made him even angrier. Chapter 2375. Wanzi had been staring at Bai Xian'er's image the whole time. He wanted to know where she was. He would rather die than drag this woman down with him. He wanted to take revenge for the Lu family, Tu Qiming and those crazy Lu family officials. Lu Yin stared at Bai Xian'er for a while before speaking up. Actually, I wanted to tell you this back at Safflower Garden. Tu Qiming and Wanzi both looked at Lu Yin, and Bai Xian'er smiled back at him. Lu Yin opened his mouth. You really are a bitch. Bai Xian'er's smile disappeared. Tu Qiming's jaw dropped as he stared at Lu Yin in a daze, as if this was the first time they had met. Wanzi was also dumbfounded without a care for his image. Everyone fell silent. Tu Qiming was the first to speak. What did you say? Lu Yin looked at Tu Qiming and smiled. Am I wrong? Tu Qiming shook his head vigorously and grinned. Yes, you're absolutely right, how could you be wrong? Ha! He then glared at Bai Xian'er. Bitch, did you hear that? Bastard Lu, no, boss said that you're a bitch, ha! Wanzi stared at Lu Yin in shock. If this was the old Zhou Xian, he would never have said such a thing to Bai Xian'er. He had been too infatuated with her then, but was he still the same Zhou Xian now? Although he had cursed her, Wanzi felt that the current Zhou Xian, no Lu Yin, was more like an overlord. The leader of the Lu family should be like this. Ha ha, bitch. Tu Qiming cursed excitedly. Below them, Lu Xuanjuan's troops changed positions. Occasionally, someone would look up and stare at them strangely. It was too strange to hear laughter on this battlefield. Lu Yin and Bai Xian'er looked at each other with undisguised killing intent. Bai Xian'er's expression was calm as she stared deeply at Lu Yin. She didn't say anything as her image disappeared. Hey, why are you running? I haven't had enough yet. Get back here, bitch. Tu Qiming cursed. Lu Yin rolled his eyes. All right, she's gone. It doesn't matter how loud you are. Tu Qiming looked at Lu Yin excitedly. I give up, bastard Lu. No, you're Grandpa Tu's boss. Boss, I really give up today. Lu Yin sized up Tu Qiming. So the past was all fake? Tu Qiming waved his hand. In the past I was beaten into submission by you. Now I'm completely convinced. You're my boss for life. Ah, listen. He then left, laughing as he walked away. Be asterisk tee. Ah, be asterisk tee. Wanzi, he didn't let Lu Yin's, he's never been this happy. I didn't talk to Lu Yin, but I was worried that he would kill himself one day. That was, at least he didn't I. To him too he. To that. And, he. He then looked at Lu Yin. You scolded Bai Xian'er because of him. You've resolved the knot in his heart. I'm scolding her on behalf of the Lu family and all of the surviving members of the Lu family. Not only am I scolding her, but if possible I'll even kill her. Wanzi reminded him, Don't underestimate Bai Xianer. She's not one of the 7 heroes, nor is she the publicly acknowledged 8th. However, she's the one with the deepest secrets. No one knows what kind of abilities she has, and dealing with her is even more difficult than dealing with a progenitor. Lu Yin knew this, or else he wouldn't have acted first when the Fog ancestor had informed him that Bai Xianer would go to the 5th mainland to deal with him. Although Bai Xianer wasn't a progenitor, she was an even greater threat. In the upper realm of the Cosmic Tree Realm, cultivators from the 5th mainland walked out one by one from the Wang family mainland. Aside from the army and progenitors, they were the first batch of 5th mainland cultivators to freely come to the Cosmic Tree Realm. The 4-way scales wouldn't just stand by and watch. Any cultivator from the 5th mainland who came to the Cosmic Tree Realm had to register with the 4-way scales and head to the Middle Realm. It wasn't easy for the local cultivators to travel from the Middle Realm to the Upper Realm. They had to search cosmic rings and confiscate weapons, let alone the cultivators from the 5th mainland. If it weren't for the fact that the new Void Corridor couldn't be moved, they would have definitely moved it to the Lower Realm. Even the Middle Realm wouldn't allow them to easily enter. Name. Outside the mountain, a cultivator from the Wang family was busy registering. There was a long line in front of him, and regardless of their cultivation, as long as they arrived, they had to register and head to a fixed location in the Middle Realm under the 4-way scales watch. Leng Zhao. Cultivation. In lighter with 22 cycles. Why have you come to the Cosmic Tree Realm? To cultivate. Can't we cultivate in an abandoned land? The cultivator from the Wang family looked up with disgust and disdain. Everyone from the Cosmic Tree Realm felt superior to the 5th mainland, and they called it an abandoned land. This was something that had been accumulated over countless years, and no matter how powerful the 5th mainland was, they couldn't change it. Leng Zhao raised his head. Oh, what's with your attitude? The cultivator from the Wang family was furious. All around him, the cultivators from the Wang family looked over with cold gazes. There were even envoys present. However, Leng Zhao didn't panic at all. The Daoist said that we can freely travel between the Cosmic Tree Realm and the 5th mainland. The cultivator from the Wang family snorted. This is the Cosmic Tree Realm and it's my Wang family's territory. Pay attention to your attitude or else you might not be able to leave alive. Oh, I don't believe you. Does your Wang family want to start a war with the 5th mainland? A figure walked out from the line with an arrogant expression. He glanced at the cultivators from the Wang family and it was Haizid Shenwei. Another person walked out from behind the cultivators from the Wang family. It was Wang Yan, the branch family head. He had become the acting family head when Wang Jing had gone missing, but not long after Wang Jing had returned, Wang Yan had stepped down. However, since he had stepped up to the front, it was difficult for him to step back. Wang Jing had put him in charge of registering the 5th mainland's cultivators. Wang Yan had not wanted to come as everyone knew that this was not a good job. Furthermore, the 4-way scales had given him a mission, but he had no choice. The Wang family has no intention of starting a war, but we can't allow you to act so presumptuously in our territory, Wang Yan said in a dignified manner. After all, he was still the branch family head. What kind of attitude do you want? Kneel down and talk to you? Haizid Shenwei was disdainful. His personality was similar to Haizid Lian's. Wang Yan felt a headache coming on. How could they start a war? The 5th mainland had taken over the 4th formation base, so they definitely could not start a war. That won't be the case, but you must cooperate with the registration and answer all my questions. Are you saying that we have to return the battle techniques and secret techniques that you're asking us to cultivate? Haizid Shenwei retorted, and the cultivators from the 5th mainland all retorted at the same time. The cultivators from the Wang family naturally did not want to be outdone, and the argument between the two sides grew more and more intense. Some cultivators from the Wang family suggested that they kill Haizid Shenwei as an example, and the cultivators from the 5th mainland would naturally calm down. However, this suggestion was rejected by Wang Yan. Coming out, he had already known about Haizid Shenwei's identity, which was why he had been cautious. After all, how could a normal person dare to go against them? Haizid Shenwei was a disciple of Eternal Sky Island, which had a half-ancestor. What truly made Wang Yan apprehensive was that Eternal Sky Island's relationship with Lu Yin was too good. If they dared to touch Haizid Shenwei, Lu Yin would be able to invade the Wang family. The Wang family did not want to be ridiculed like the Xia family. Wang Yan said something to Haizid Shenwei, who raised a hand. Only then did the cultivators from the Fifth Mainland stop arguing, and Wang Yan also stopped the cultivators from arguing. There's no point in arguing. Don't worry, we won't ask any personal questions, Wang Yan said. Haizid Shenwei sneered. Delete that stupid question about why we came to this part of the universe. We're already here, so what's the point of asking? I've been using a book-chasing app recently. Source-changing app. Read books in a cache and read them offline. The cultivators from the Wang family were furious. Wang Yan said, the main reason I asked this question is because there are quite a few places in the Middle Realm that can be arranged according to your destination. Of course, you can also choose not to answer, as the agreement does indeed mention free travel. However, I must remind you that we cannot guarantee your safety. This part of the universe is very large and very dangerous. Haizid Shenwei continued, the cultivators of the Fifth Mainland have all walked out of blood and fire. We are not afraid of death. The cultivators of the Fifth Mainland cheered as soon as he finished speaking. The cultivators from the Wang family were indignant. On the other side, many cultivators from the Cosmic Tree Realm were also heading to the Fifth Mainland. They would not be questioned like this if they were there, as the Fifth Mainland did not have astral sources, so they could not cultivate there. They were mainly going there for the inheritance of the Fifth Pagoda, and if they could not obtain it, they would quickly return. The free travel agreement seemed to be beneficial to the Fifth Mainland. Of course, the four-way scales were not without options, and they were doing just that. Name: Xianxia. The cultivator from the Wang family was astonished. Destination: Xian Academy. You're from Xian Academy? No, I plan to enter Xian Academy. Cultivation. Enlighter. The cultivator from the Wang family looked up at Xianxia and was shocked. So young. He then smiled and tried to appear as gentle as possible. Have you ever thought of joining my Wang family? Xianxia was astonished. There was such a thing. Behind him, Haizid Shenwei raised an eyebrow and sneered. Since you've come to the Cosmic Tree Realm, you should be clear about the status of the four-way scales. You should also know what it means to join the Wang family. How about it? If you're willing to join, you'll immediately become a member of the Wang family and receive our protection. Xianxia looked at the cultivator from the Wang family and smiled. There's no need. The cultivator from the Wang family was shocked, as he had not expected someone to refuse. This was an opportunity to join the Wang family, and many people in the Cosmic Tree Realm dreamed of having it, including the students from Xian Academy. There were still many students from Xian Academy in the Wang family. I'm talking about joining the Wang family and officially becoming a cultivator of the Wang family. There's no need to take the test, you can just do it. Xianxia smiled and shook his head. There's no need. I like to study. The cultivator from the Wang family was furious. What was the meaning of this? Did the Wang family not study? He wanted to say something, but Haizid Shenwei and Wang Yan both looked over. Helpless, the cultivator from the Wang family impatiently pointed at a place. Go by yourself. You don't know what's good for you.